Chapter 1678. Let's go. The saints of the Heavenly Divinity sect harumphed and left with the rest of the Heavenly Divinity sect. The people of the Desire Poison sect and the people of the Sky Demonic sect who had launched a sneak attack also left quietly. Lu Ming, are you all right? The Saint Realm Elder of the Divine Dragon Valley asked Lu Ming. Elder, I'm fine. Lu Ming replied helplessly. All right, let's go back first. The Heavenly Divinity sect, Desire Poison sect and the other sects will join forces at this treasure meeting. You must be prepared. The Elder of the Divine Dragon Valley said and flew back to the Divine Dragon Valley. Lu Ming, Tian Xue, Xuening Xin and Zi Feng followed behind. The Divine Dragon Valley will be in danger at the treasure meeting in 10 days. Zi Feng sighed. How many top geniuses will there be in the Divine Dragon Valley? Lu Ming asked. The top geniuses he was referring to were those with peak 6th layer martial royal realm and superior earth spiritual bodies. Such geniuses would be able to influence the outcome of the treasure meeting. Only one. That's a far cry from 3 years ago. Zi Feng sighed. Lu Ming frowned. The Divine Dragon Valley would be in danger if that was the case. They would definitely be targeted by the Heavenly Divinity sect, Desire Poison sect and the other sects at the treasure meeting. The Divine Dragon Valley would not be able to contend against them and might not even be able to enter the top 10. They would lose the right to participate in the treasure meeting. Senior Brother Zi Feng, I recommend someone who will be able to suppress the other top geniuses at the treasure meeting. Lu Ming's heart stirred as he thought of Su Lei. Su Lei had obtained the inheritance of Gusu City's ancestral land, and her mystical Yin dragon body was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming estimated that unless one had a heavenly spiritual body, they would not be a match for Su Lei. If Su Lei participated, she would be able to suppress everyone. Suppress the other top geniuses? Zi Feng's eyes lit up. How could he not know that there was such a genius in the Divine Dragon Valley? However, since Lu Ming said so, he must be confident. All right, I'll recommend someone else. Zi Feng said. As they chatted, they soon arrived at the outpost in Dragon God Valley. As soon as Lu Ming returned to the outpost in Dragon God Valley, he ran into two familiar faces, Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao. Qiu Yingying was very happy to see Lu Ming. Yingying, congratulations. Your cultivation has reached the 6th layer martial dominator realm. Lu Ming smiled faintly. The speed of Qiu Yingying's breakthrough was beyond Lu Ming's expectation. She had already reached LV6 martial royal realm. Qiu Yingying only had an ordinary spiritual body. Lu Ming thought that Qiu Yingying had once obtained an inheritance in the Tsang Emperor's secret realm. Perhaps it was related to this. Suddenly, Lu Ming exclaimed and stared at Qiu Yingying carefully. Lu Ming, what are you looking at? Qiu Yingying blushed as Lu Ming stared at her. She said unnaturally. Senior Brother Zi Feng, 7th Senior Brother, 8th Senior Sister. Please go back first. I have something to say to Yingying. Lu Ming said to Zi Feng, Tian Xue, and the others. Haha, Junior Brother, I understand. I'll leave now. Tian Xue laughed and left with Xuening Xin with an I understand expression. Zi Feng smiled and left as well. Oh, I forgot that I have something important to do. You guys go ahead. I'm leaving too. Qiu Hao slapped his head and winked at Qiu Yingying. He then flew into the air and left as well. Only Lu Ming and Qiu Yingying were left. Qiu Yingying's heart began to beat rapidly. She did not dare to look at Lu Ming. Lu Ming rubbed his nose and was speechless. It seemed that he had been misunderstood. Yingying, let's talk somewhere else. Lu Ming said as he walked toward an open space by the side. Qiu Yingying's heart beat faster. What does Lu Ming want to talk to me about? Does he like me? At this moment, Qiu Yingying's mind was filled with various thoughts. Yingying, was there a soul cultivation technique in the inheritance you obtained? Lu Ming asked after they arrived at the empty space. Yes. Qiu Yingying was stunned at first. Then she nodded. So that was what Lu Ming wanted to talk about. It seemed that she was wrong. She did not know why, but she felt a sense of loss. As expected, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Lu Ming's soul power was extremely strong and he had also cultivated a soul cultivation technique. When he looked at Qiu Yingying, he found that Qiu Yingying's soul power was extraordinarily strong. Qiu Yingying's cultivation was at LV6 martial royal realm, but her soul power was far stronger than that. It was even close to LV8 martial royal realm. Such soul power was not something that ordinary people could possess. Therefore, Lu Ming immediately thought of the inheritance Qiu Yingying had obtained in the Emperor Tsong's secret realm. Yingying, does the soul cultivation technique you obtained have any offensive skills? Lu Ming asked. Yes. Qiu Yingying calmed herself down and nodded. Use it on me. Let me feel it. Use it with all your strength. Lu Ming said. Okay. Qiu Yingying nodded. She knew that Lu Ming was much stronger than her, so she did not hold back. Qiu Yingying's eyes began to change and became pitch black. At this moment, Lu Ming realized that his surroundings had changed. It had become a purgatory. Roar! Roar! One by one, the purgatory fiends roared and charged toward Lu Ming. Illusion! Lu Ming muttered. Qiu Yingying's soul attack was an illusion. She used her powerful soul power to affect her opponent's soul and make him hallucinate. This kind of attack was mysterious and dangerous. Once a person fell into an illusion, he would be at the mercy of others. Break! Lu Ming whispered. His soul power shook slightly. The scene around him shattered like glass and returned to normal. Then, Qiu Yingying's delicate body trembled and she retreated. Her eyes returned to normal, but her face was pale. Yingying, are you okay? Lu Ming stepped forward and appeared beside Qiu Yingying. He asked with concern. Lu Ming's soul power was so powerful that it broke Qiu Yingying's illusion with a slight shake of his soul power. Even Qiu Yingying herself suffered from the backlash. I'm fine. It's just that my soul power shook a little. Lu Ming, your soul power is so powerful. Qiu Yingying said with amazement in her eyes. When her soul power came into contact with Lu Ming's soul power, she felt that Lu Ming's soul power was like a boundless ocean. Yingying, your soul attack is quite magical. I'll teach you a soul attack too, which will help your soul to rank up to the 8th layer martial dominator realm, or even higher. With that, no one below the high-level martial dominator realm in the Tsong continent would stand a chance against you. Lu Ming said. Really? Qiu Yingying asked. Of course it's real. Look at this. A demon crystal appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This is a demon crystal? Chapter 1679. Lu Ming had an idea when he saw Qiu Yingying. He wanted to increase Qiu Yingying's soul power and teach her the holy sword skill. In this way, Qiu Yingying would be able to defeat the other geniuses of LV6 Martial Royal Realm. If Qiu Yingying attended the treasure ordering meeting, she would definitely surprise the others. Yingying, let's go to your room. I'll help you increase your soul power. Lu Ming said. Okay. Qiu Yingying nodded. Lu Ming and Qiu Yingying went to her room. Lu Ming took out a piece of demon crystal and helped Qiu Yingying refine it. With Lu Ming's help and Qiu Yingying's own efforts, the speed of refining the demon crystal greatly increased. After refining one piece, Qiu Yingying took out another piece. Her soul power increased explosively. A few hours later, Qiu Yingying's soul power had reached the level of a LV8 Martial Royal Realm martial artist and it was still increasing. 3 days later, her soul force had another breakthrough, reaching the 9th layer Martial Dominator realm. Lu Ming stopped refining the demon crystal for Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying needed some time to adapt to the sudden increase. Yingying, how about you attend the treasure ordering meeting in 7 days? Lu Ming asked. Me? Sure, I've been wanting to attend for a long time. Unfortunately, I wasn't chosen. Qiu Yingying was looking forward to it. Her cultivation was good, but her body constitution was too weak. It was just an ordinary spiritual body. Even if she wanted to attend the treasure ordering meeting, she would still be chosen. Okay, I'll let senior brother Zifeng know. By the way, here's the holy sword skill. It's a soul cultivation and attack technique. Take it. Lu Ming took out a jade talisman and gave it to Qiu Yingying. It was the holy sword skill. Qiu Yingying took it and scanned it with her spiritual consciousness. She was delighted. Although her illusion technique was mysterious, it was not very aggressive. With the help of the holy sword skill, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Lu Ming, thank you. Qiu Yingying smiled. Then, as if she had thought of something, a jade talisman appeared in her hand. She handed it to Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, this is the soul art I practice. It might be useful to you. All right, then I won't hold back. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and put it away. Qiu Yingying's illusion technique was indeed very useful to Lu Ming. Yingying, You should familiarize yourself with your cultivation during this period of time. 7 days from now, you'll be participating in the treasure ordering meeting. Lu Ming said his goodbyes and left. After that, Lu Ming went to look for Su Lei and told her that he wanted her to participate in the treasure auction. Su Lei naturally agreed. With Su Lei's battle prowess, she also wanted to participate in the treasure peddling meeting. After that, Lu Ming returned to his room and entered the mountain river diagram. On a mountain peak, Ming Lian's second body was flowing with the power of formation Dao runes. He held a jade talisman in his hand and the runes entered the jade talisman. Bubble was standing on the second body's shoulder and using the law of spacetime to help the second body refine the jade talisman. Lu Ming was refining a kind of spacetime teleportation talisman. It was sealed with a trace of the law of spacetime. If it was crushed, one could instantly teleport 300 meters away. Lu Ming refined these jade talismans for the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley, who would be participating in the treasure sorting meeting this time. He did not want the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley to be so passive and be killed by others like what happened 3 years ago. After that, Lu Ming appeared on another mountain peak. With a wave of his hand, a dragon bone appeared in front of him. This dragon bone was obtained from Gusu City's ancestral lands. Lu Ming unleashed his devouring power and started to refine the essence of the dragon bone. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the treasure peddling meeting. At this time, Lu Ming had almost refined the dragon bone, but his spiritual body didn't improve. He was still an inferior heavenly spiritual body. As expected, it's too difficult for my spiritual body to evolve after becoming a heavenly spiritual body. I wonder if the 3,000 kilograms of Supreme Saint Dragon Bone can help my spiritual body evolve? Lu Ming thought. Then, he took out the mountain river diagram. Senior Lu Ming. Lu Ming. When Lu Ming appeared in the courtyard, he saw that Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were already there. Su Lei, Yingying, come with me. Lu Ming smiled and led Su Lei and Qiu Yingying to an open space in Dragon God Valley. There were dozens of people gathered there. They were the disciples of Dragon God Valley, who were participating in the treasure peddling meeting. There were 2 people in front of them. One was a burly elder, who was the Saint State elder. The other was Zi Feng. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, everyone looked at Lu Ming. Especially the disciples who were going to participate in the treasure peddling meeting. They looked at Lu Ming with admiration. 3 years ago, Lu Ming had single-handedly helped Dragon God Valley win the first place in the small gathering. Junior brother Lu, you're finally here. Zi Feng's eyes lit up when he saw Lu Ming. He smiled. Senior brother Zi Feng. Elder. Lu Ming cupped his fists at Zi Feng and the Saint State elder. Lu Ming, I heard from Zi Feng that someone recommended you to participate in the treasure peddling meeting? The Saint State elder asked as he looked at Su Lei and Qiu Yingying. Yes, it's them. Lu Ming pointed at Qiu Yingying and Su Lei. The Saint State elder looked at Su Lei and Qiu Yingying with a strange light in his eyes. His eyes flickered as he glanced at Su Lei's figure. Her flesh is brimming with qi and blood, and her life force is as vigorous as fire. This is a superior earthly spiritual body, and her cultivation has reached the peak of the 6th layer martial dominator realm. I didn't know there was such a genius in the Dragon Valley. But this girl seems to have an ordinary spiritual body. Lu Ming, are you sure you want her to participate? The Saint State elder looked at Qiu Yingying with doubt. Don't worry, elder. She'll surprise you. Lu Ming smiled. Okay, let's change them. The Saint State elder said. He then changed the 2 weakest disciples to Qiu Yingying and Su Lei. At this moment, Lu Ming waved his hands and pieces of jade talismans appeared in the air. There were a total of 36 of them. Junior brothers and sisters, this treasure peddling meeting will be targeted by the Divine Sky Sect, Poison Sect, and other sections. It will be very dangerous, just like 3 years ago. Lu Ming spoke. Many people's expressions changed as fear flashed across their faces. Indeed, if they were targeted by the Divine Sky Sect and other sects like 3 years ago, some of the weaker disciples would be in danger. However, Dragon God Valley had ordered them to participate, so they had to participate. They could only try their best to stay alive. But this time, I won't let you make the same mistake as 3 years ago. Each of you will have 1 jade talisman. If you're in danger, crush the jade talisman and you can move 300 meters away. Lu Ming said. These words caused the eyes of all the disciples present, including the sage realm elders and Zi Feng, to burn with passion. They didn't expect to have such a treasure that could save their lives at a critical moment. Chapter 1680. Thank you, Senior Brother Lu Ming. All the 36 disciples bowed to Lu Ming to express their gratitude. Most of these disciples had probably been in the sect longer than Lu Ming. But on the path of martial arts the stronger one was the first. Back in the Dragon God Valley, Lu Ming had made Yin Zisong kneel with 2 roars. His cultivation was unfathomable. These people naturally addressed Lu Ming as senior brother. Great, haha, let's go. The sage state elder was overjoyed. After shouting, he led the group to the venue of the treasure sorting party. Lu Ming and Zi Feng also went. It was still the same venue 3 years ago. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, they found that the place was already full. Around the fighting ring, there were 13 circular platforms. The other 12 sects had already arrived. Only one platform was empty, and that was platform number 10. 3 years ago Lu Ming and the others were on that platform. The participating disciples of the Dragon God Valley landed on platform number 10, while the Sage State Elder flew to the pavilion behind. Lu Ming and Zi Feng landed on the spectator stand behind platform number 10. There were already many disciples of the Dragon God Valley sitting on the spectator stand. 9th junior brother, come, sit here. Tian Chue and Xueqi had also arrived. Tian Chue greeted Lu Ming. Lu Ming and Zi Feng sat beside Tian Chue and Xueqi. Haha, the Dragon God Valley is finally here. I thought you guys were scared and cowardly. On the spectator stand of the Heavenly Divinity sect, a cold gaze swept towards Lu Ming. Luo Xuehan had also arrived. Wait a moment, the Dragon God Valley will let the Heavenly Divinity sect know how to write the word cowardly. Lu Ming said indifferently. Is that so? Luo Xuehan's eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Lu Ming, you are still as arrogant as ever. Wait a minute, don't kill the disciples of Dragon God Valley because of you. There are also a few beauties inside. It would be a pity if they were killed by you. A cold voice sounded. Lu Ming looked towards the source of the voice, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Mo Yang. The geniuses of the Sky Universe Demon sect had also come. Mo Yang, back in the Tianfeng Plains, who ran faster than a dog. You forgot so quickly. Lu Ming sneered. Mo Yang's face stiffened. Back then in the Heavenly Wind Plains, Lu Ming had controlled a hurricane and chased him all over the place. He had always been brooding over this matter. Now that Lu Ming mentioned it, his face became even more gloomy. Humph. Lu Ming, you'd better pray that you don't encounter me in the treasure ranking meeting this time. Oh, I almost forgot. You still have to fight the Godchild later on. In any case, you're dead for sure, so I can't be bothered to argue with a dead person. Mo Yang said coldly. Around them, many people's hearts raced. This time, the treasure ranking meeting had attracted so many experts. Several of the top 10 geniuses had come. The treasure ranking meeting had not yet begun, but the geniuses and Lu Ming were already at daggers drawn. Is Shao Qing not here? Lu Ming's eyes scanned the Sky Universe Demon Sect's grandstand, and he was a little disappointed. It seemed that Xian Yanqing still had not come to Tsang Mountain. Otherwise, he would have guessed that Lu Ming would appear at the treasure ranking meeting. If Xian Yanqing had come, he would have definitely come to look for him. Since he had not appeared, it was likely that he was not coming. Junior brothers and sisters of the Celestial God sect, today, treat the people of Dragon God Valley well. Luo Xuehan's voice was heard. Junior brothers and sisters of the Sky Universe Demon sect. Wait a moment. You must also treat the people of Dragon God Valley well. Mo Yang said coldly. On the other side, the people of the Desire Poison sect also looked coldly at the people of Dragon God Valley. Many people were astonished. Was the Dragon God Valley going to be targeted like 3 years ago? 3 years ago, Dragon God Valley had Lu Ming. Who would Dragon God Valley rely on this time? Moreover, it was said that there was only one top genius in Dragon God Valley. This time, Dragon God Valley would not be directly eliminated and could not even participate in the treasure ranking meeting, right? In the grandstand, many disciples of Dragon God Valley who were above the 7th level of the martial royal realm looked very gloomy. Humph, damn it. Tian Chue gritted his teeth. Only Lu Ming looked calm. Zi Feng's face was also gloomy. Not long after, a Saint Realm Elder of the Celestial God sect appeared and announced the rules of the competition and the rewards. This time, The rewards were exactly the same as 3 years ago. It was still 7 Emperor Region elixirs, which made many people's eyes burn with excitement. Then, the competition was announced. The Celestial God sect still occupied the #1 platform and was the first to send someone to challenge. Whoosh! A young man from the Celestial God sect jumped onto the platform and emitted a powerful aura. He was a 6th-level Martial Royal Realm expert. He looked directly at Dragon God Valley and pointed at a 4th-level Martial Royal Realm youth. He said coldly, "You come down and die." Many people were shocked. It was exactly the same as 3 years ago. The Celestial God sect directly sent out experts to kill the disciples of Dragon God Valley. Junior brother, stay alive first. The leader of Dragon God Valley this time was a young man in a purple robe from Violet Dragon Valley. Yes. The Dragon God Valley youth who was challenged nodded and jumped onto the platform. Die! The young man from the Celestial God sect charged towards the Dragon God Valley disciple. The Dragon God Valley disciple did not linger and rushed to the edge of the platform. You can't escape. You'll die. The young man from the Celestial God sect attacked coldly and instantly caught up with the Dragon God Valley disciple. The difference in cultivation was too great. The Dragon God Valley disciple could not even escape. Whoosh! The young man from the Celestial God sect formed a spear of divine punishment in his hand and stabbed towards the Dragon God Valley disciple. The Dragon God Valley disciple is dead meat. Such a thought appeared in many people's minds. At this moment, a ray of light shone from the Dragon God Valley disciple and enveloped him. In the next moment, his body trembled and disappeared. In the next moment, he reappeared 300 meters away. He was not far from the edge of the platform. The Dragon God Valley disciple took a few steps and rushed down the platform at lightning speed. What a powerful life-saving talisman. Many people around saw through the talisman. On the platform, the Celestial God sect disciple snorted and returned to the first platform. You're lucky to have a life-saving talisman. However, there are still 35 people. Do they all have life-saving talismans? Only one more person can survive. Luo Xuehan said coldly. However, he did not see the joy in the eyes of the Dragon God Valley disciples. The jade talisman that Lu Ming gave them was really useful. They instantly felt more confident and more confident. Whoosh! Next, it was the second platform's turn to challenge the sections. The second platform was still the Sky Universe Demon sect. In fact, the platforms that the sects landed on were almost the same as 3 years ago. A young man from the Sky Universe Demon sect stepped onto the platform and looked towards the Dragon God Valley. You come down and die. Chapter 1681. Everyone knew that the Heavenly Divinity sect and Empyrean Demon sect had teamed up against the Divine Dragon Valley, just like 3 years ago. Bring it on. The disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley jumped onto the fighting ring and glared at the disciple of the Empyrean Demon sect. Brat, you're arrogant. I'll make you wish you were dead. The disciple of the Empyrean Demon sect said coldly. You want to kill me? Why don't we make a bet? If you can't kill me, you'll kneel down and kowtow to me. The disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley sneered. Now that he had the Jade Talisman, he had the confidence to protect his life, and his courage increased. Brat, you're courting death. The disciple of the Empyrean Demon sect charged at the disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley. The disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley took a step forward and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. However, the disciple of the Demon sect caught up with him and slashed his blade at the disciple of the Dragon God Valley. However, the same thing happened in the previous battle. The disciple of the Dragon God Valley emitted a bright light and in the next moment, he appeared 300 meters away and rushed out of the battle stage. I've said that you can't kill me. So what if you're a rank 6 Martial Royal? The disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley said arrogantly. Damn it! The disciple of the Empyrean Demon sect glared at him and returned to the fighting ring. Another life preservation talisman. Don't tell me everyone has one. Impossible. Such a life preservation talisman is extremely precious. The Divine Dragon Valley doesn't have many of them. A commotion broke out in the surroundings. The Divine Dragon Valley is really willing to give away such a precious item to save their lives. However, what's the point of having a life preservation talisman? If you can't win, the Divine Dragon Valley will be the first to be eliminated. Luo Xuehan said coldly. He was in a bad mood. He had said that he would kill the disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley, but now, the disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley had saved his life. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly, his expression calm. The challenges continued and soon, it was the Desire Poison sect's turn. As expected, the Desire Poison sect also sent out an expert to challenge the disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley. However, the disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley saved his life with a life preservation talisman and rushed down the fighting ring. The crowd was dumbfounded. Don't tell me the Divine Dragon Valley is giving everyone a talisman? However, this was useless. Even if he could survive, he would be targeted by the three great sections. He would definitely be the first to be defeated and eliminated. At that time, he wouldn't even be able to participate in the treasure ranking meeting. 3 years ago there was Lu Ming. In the end, the Herculean King Kuanglan suppressed all the heroes. This time, who was there in Dragon God Valley? It was said that the quality of Dragon God Valley's prodigies this time was far inferior to 3 years ago. As for the Heavenly Divinity sect, it was said that the geniuses of the Heavenly Divinity sect were stronger than 3 years ago. There were 4 geniuses who had reached the peak of the 6th layer martial dominator realm and possessed the superior earthly spiritual body, which was 1 more than 3 years ago. The Empyrean Demon sect and the Poison sect weren't any weaker than they were 3 years ago. In that case, Dragon God Valley had no chance at all. The competition continued, and soon, it was Dragon God Valley's turn. What was different from 3 years ago was that this time, the Dragon God Valley disciples had life-saving talismans and could counterattack in advance. The leader of Dragon God Valley sent out a 6th layer martial dominator to challenge a 4th layer martial dominator from the Heavenly Divinity sect and killed him. The disciples of the Heavenly Divinity sect and Luo Shuahan's faces darkened. They didn't manage to kill a disciple of Dragon God Valley. Instead, one of them was killed by Dragon God Valley. Today, Dragon God Valley will be the first to be eliminated. Luo Shuehan said coldly. Hey Luo, can you shut your mouth? You were already saying that you wanted to entertain my Dragon God Valley's disciples and kill them. Now that you can't kill them, you're saying that you want to be the first to eliminate my Dragon God Valley's disciples. Do you think you can rely on your mouth alone? Don't you feel pain when you slap your own face? Lu Ming said disdainfully. Ha ha ha. Tian Chue, Xuening Xin, and the others beside Lu Ming burst into laughter. Then, the other disciples of Dragon God Valley laughed as well. Hiccup. Luo Shuehan clenched his fists so tightly that his veins popped out. Soon, the first round was over and the second round began. The second round was the same as the first. The Heavenly Divinity sect, Empyrean Demon sect, and Desire Poison sect sent out their experts to challenge Dragon God Valley. However, everyone from Dragon God Valley had a talisman, so none of them were killed. The people from the other sects were dumbfounded. Dragon God Valley had so many talismans to protect themselves. These talismans weren't very useful in other places. If the difference in strength was too great, the others would be able to catch up to them in a few moves. However, it was different on the battle stage. On the battle stage, 300 meters was enough to escape the battle stage and save one's life. The Heavenly Divinity sect and the other 2 sects were helpless. What made the Heavenly Divinity sect vomit blood was that when Dragon God Valley challenged them, they would send out their experts to kill a weakling from the Heavenly Divinity sect. They couldn't kill Dragon God Valley's disciples, but Dragon God Valley could kill them. It was the same for every round after that. In every round, Dragon God Valley would lose 3 disciples, but one of them would be able to kill a disciple from the Heavenly Divinity sect. Soon, the 8th round was over. 24 people from Dragon God Valley had been defeated, and only 12 were left. However, 8 people from the Heavenly Divinity sect had been killed by Dragon God Valley. These were all geniuses, and the Heavenly Divinity sect was heartbroken. They finally had a taste of what it felt like to be killed by Dragon God Valley 3 years ago. The Heavenly Divinity sect had no way out. They could only eliminate Dragon God Valley as soon as possible to reduce their losses. The 9th round. Whoosh! A genius from the Heavenly Divinity sect jumped onto the battle stage, and a violent aura filled the entire area. He was a peak level 6 martial royal realm cultivator. Although he wasn't one of the 4 strongest geniuses from the Heavenly Divinity sect, he was one of the 4 strongest geniuses. He glanced at the Dragon God Valley. The remaining 12 people from Dragon God Valley were all level 6 martial royal realm cultivators. Little girl, come down. The genius from the Heavenly Divinity sect looked at Qiu Yingying and said coldly, It's finally my turn. Qiu Yingying's eyes lit up as she stepped onto the battle stage. You must have a life-saving talisman with you. If that's the case, Get off the battle stage yourself. Don't let me kill you. The genius from the Heavenly Divinity sect said flatly. Xueqi's cultivation was only at the early level 6 martial royal realm. She didn't look strong, and her vitality wasn't strong. She was obviously a person with an ordinary body constitution. Dragon God Valley had sent a person with an ordinary body constitution. They had no other geniuses. Zifeng, Lu Ming, you actually let a woman with an ordinary physique take part in the match. Has the divine Dragon Valley declined to this extent? Can't you even send a decent person? Luo Xuehan sneered. He wouldn't let go of the chance to mock Dragon God Valley. Wait, don't slap your own face again. Chapter 1682. Oh. An early-stage martial royal realm cultivator with an ordinary body constitution. What else can he do other than escape with a life-saving talisman? Luo Xuehan sneered. Lu Ming ignored Luo Xuehan and looked at the fighting ring. I don't know how to use a life-saving talisman. Xueqi said. You don't need a life-saving talisman? The eyes of the heavenly god sex genius lit up. No, I don't need a life-saving talisman to deal with you. Xueqi said. Her words made him burst out laughing. Many people from the Heavenly God sect and the Heavenly Universe Demon sect laughed as well. An early-stage martial royal realm cultivator with an ordinary spiritual body said that he didn't need a life-saving talisman to deal with a 6th martial royal realm cultivator from the Heavenly God sect. How arrogant and presumptuous! If you don't need a life-saving talisman, die. The Heavenly God sect's genius said coldly. Holy light surrounded him as he took a step forward. A holy light sword appeared in his hand and he slashed at Xueqi. However, Xueqi changed in his eyes. Xueqi seemed to have disappeared in front of him. His surroundings changed and turned into a purgatory. Countless demons charged at the Heavenly God sect's genius. How can this be? Get lost. The Heavenly God sect's genius roared. His sword chi slashed at the demons. The demons were killed one after another, but more demons pounced on him. He started a fierce battle with the demons. Of course, he only saw it with his own eyes. Most of the people present were dumbfounded. They only saw the Heavenly God sex prodigy charging at Xueqi aggressively. But halfway there, he suddenly stopped and let out an inexplicable roar. Then he began to randomly attack the air. Xueqi just stood there motionless. The Heavenly God sex genius was fighting fiercely. Everyone present was dumbfounded. What's this old man doing? Even the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley were dumbfounded. Only 2 people had calm expressions on their faces. One of them was Lu Ming, and the other was Qiu Hao. Qiu Hao knew that Xueqi's inheritance could use soul illusions. Junior brother Lu Ming. You already knew about it. Zifeng took a deep breath and looked at the calm Lu Ming. He finally understood why Lu Ming wanted Xueqi to participate in the competition. Yes, senior brother, look down. Lu Ming nodded and smiled. Zhao 7, what are you doing? Luo Xuehan shouted from the Heavenly Divinity sect's grandstand. His face was burning. What was Zhao 7th doing? However, his shout was useless. The Heavenly Celestial sect's elite disciple was still wildly hacking at the air as he shouted, kill, and scram. At this moment, Xueqi took a light step forward, and a long sword appeared in her hand. She walked toward her opponent. It was as if the other party couldn't see Xueqi at all. He swung his sword randomly, but none of his attacks hit Xueqi. Zhao 7, what are you doing? Retreat! Retreat! The Heavenly God sex people shouted loudly. But it was useless. Zhao 7th did not seem to be able to hear him. Xueqi arrived in front of Zhao 7th and stabbed him with her sword. Zhao 7th did not react at all. His dantian was pierced by Xueqi's sword. At this moment, Zhao 7th finally stopped his random slashing. His eyes widened as he stared blankly at Xueqi. He stared blankly at the long sword that had pierced through his dantian and destroyed his spiritual spirit. He continued to spit out blood and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Buzz! Xueqi's sword vibrated and Zhao 7th was sent flying. He was no longer breathing. The entire area was silent. Xueqi's attack was too strange. Zhao 7th had died in a strange way. Great! After a while, the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley burst into cheers. The disciples of the Heavenly Divinity sect looked gloomy. An early-stage LV6 Martial Royal Realm cultivator with an ordinary spiritual body can do this. She can easily kill your elite disciple. Do you see that? Lu Ming looked at Luo Xuehan and said coldly. His voice was filled with mockery. Luo Xuehan gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He had just said that an early-stage LV6 Martial Royal Realm cultivator with an ordinary spiritual body could not do anything other than using talismans to save her life. Now, it was proven that she could kill the elite disciple of the Heavenly Divinity sect. This was a slap to his face. I told you to cut the crap. Otherwise, you'll only slap your own face. Now do you feel good? Lu Ming continued. Lu Ming, don't be too happy. The treasure peddling meeting is not over yet. Luo Xuehan gritted his teeth. Then let's continue watching. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Qiao Yingying killed her opponent and returned to the platform. Then, the Qianyu Demon sect and the Poison sect were more cautious and eliminated 2 more disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley. In this way, the Divine Dragon Valley was left with 10 people. When it was the Divine Dragon Valley's turn, they did not continue to challenge the Heavenly Divinity sect. Instead, they turned their attention to the Qianyu Demon sect and killed one of their disciples. Soon, the 9th round was over and the 10th round began. From the 10th round onwards, no one dared to challenge Qiao Yingying. Qiao Yingying was put aside for the time being. After another 2 rounds, 6 more people were eliminated. Only 4 people were left. They were the leaders, Qiao Yingying, Su Lei, and a genius from the Ice Dragon Valley. The Divine Dragon Valley had the least number of people. Why is the situation so similar to 3 years ago? The Divine Dragon Valley had the least number of people in the beginning, but they turned the tables in the end. Will the Divine Dragon Valley turn the tables this time? Many people were discussing. Impossible. 3 years ago, the Divine Dragon Valley had Lu Ming, but this time, there's no way another Lu Ming will appear. Although Qiao Yingying's skills are mysterious, she might be able to defeat a top elite disciple. That's right. If they want to turn the tables like 3 years ago, they have to be like Lu Ming and be able to defeat all of them. Otherwise, there's no hope. While everyone was discussing, a new round began. This time, the Heavenly Divinity sect sent a top elite to challenge the Divine Dragon Valley. He was one of the 4 most powerful people from the Heavenly Divinity sect. His name was Kai Ying, a peak LV6 Martial Royal Realm cultivator with a superior Earth spiritual body. Kai Ying glanced at the 4 people from the Divine Dragon Valley and finally fixed his eyes on Su Lei. He said, "Come and fight me." This time, the Heavenly Divinity sect was tough. They wanted to eliminate the Divine Dragon Valley first. Su Lei's cultivation was strong and her blood qi was vigorous. She gave off a strong pressure. No one had challenged her before. Su Lei's eyes lit up and she flew up to the fighting ring. Hello. Hello. Why don't we stop here? Su Lei said timidly. Her words made everyone look at each other. Su Lei looked strong, but why was she as timid as a mouse? A smile appeared on Kai Ying's face. Chapter 1683. Little girl, I'll give you a chance. Surrender and join the Heavenly Divinity sect, and I'll let you go. Kai Ying said calmly. He was too embarrassed to kill a little girl like her. No. Su Lei shook her head vigorously and said, I won't surrender. I'm a disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley. I told you not to go too far because I don't want to kill you. What? Many people were dumbfounded. Su Lei said not to go too far because she was afraid that Kai Ying would be killed. Many people shook their heads and laughed. Kai Ying was the top-notch genius at the Treasure Ding Ding small gathering. Unless it was the demon Lu Ming from 3 years ago, no one would be able to kill Kai Ying. At most, they would be able to defeat him. Little girl, you're just pretending to be innocent. You're courting death. Kai Ying was enraged and his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. He thought that Su Lei was playing with him. Swoosh. Kai Ying's body flashed and he threw a palm at Su Lei. A huge yellow palm pressed down on Su Lei. Kai Ying didn't practice the sacred cultivation technique of the Heavenly Divinity sect, but something else. A dragon's roar came from Su Lei's body. Then, Su Lei threw a palm out. Boom! Su Lei's small hand slapped against the large brown hand. The large brown hand seemed to have been frozen by a gust of cold air. With a bang, it shattered. Mountain-crushing fist. Since Kai Ying's attack failed, he continued to throw out punches with both his fists. Streaks of earthy yellow fists were like huge mountains as they pressed down on Xueqi. Xueqi's petite body looked like she would be drowned at any time. The hearts of some people in the divine Dragon Valley rose to their throats. Suddenly, a dark river appeared on Xueqi's body and it emitted a terrifying cold air. The dark river surrounded Xueqi's body. She spun her palms in the air and a terrifying cold current burst out. The mountain-like fist radiance was shattered. Then, Xueqi took a step forward and rushed towards Kai Ying. With a palm strike, the dark river transformed into a dark dragon and danced in the air, destroying everything in its path. Kai Ying's pupils rapidly shrank as he frantically punched out with both his fists. However, wherever the mysterious dragon passed, all of his attacks were destroyed. Kai Ying was shocked. He took a step forward and 18 yellow walls appeared in front of him. He wanted to block the dark dragon's attack. The enigmatic dragon roared and turned back into the enigmatic river. The enigmatic river expanded rapidly, and the water flooded the sky, drowning Kai Ying in the river. Keep, Xueqi said softly and kept the dark river. Kai Ying stood stiffly on the fighting stage. There was no aura on his body. Dead. Kai Ying was dead, killed by Xueqi. Bang. At this moment, Kai Ying's body shattered like an ice cube. Hiss. The crowd took a deep breath. Their gazes towards Xueqi were filled with astonishment. The seemingly timid and harmless Xueqi had actually killed Kai Ying. Kai Ying was a peak-level cultivator with a high-grade earthly spiritual body. Yet Xueqi was able to kill him. Great! The Dragon God Valley erupted into cheers, while the Heavenly God sect was dead silent. Luo Shuahan's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. A genius with a superior earth spiritual body had died. It was a great loss. A genius with a superior earth spiritual body had the potential to become one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses in the Tsang state. The Heavenly God sect had become stronger in the past few decades. They were becoming the top sect in the Tsang state. That was why they had recruited so many geniuses. It was good enough for the other sects to have 1 or 2 geniuses. Is the Dragon God Valley going to turn the tables like they did 3 years ago? Many people had the same thought. Xueqi was able to kill even the most elite of geniuses. She truly had the strength to turn the tides of the battle. The top geniuses of the other sects looked at Xueqi with fear and seriousness. Many people in the Dragon God Valley looked at Lu Ming with admiration. They knew that Xueqi and Qiu Yingying were recommended by Lu Ming. They didn't expect them to be so monstrous. Lu Ming smiled. There were differences in strength between spiritual bodies of the same level. Xueqi's mystical dragon body was undoubtedly a terrifying body constitution. I told you not to go too far, but you didn't listen. Xueqi muttered softly. Although her voice was soft, it was heard by everyone. Many people were speechless. The people of the Heavenly God sect wanted to vomit blood. In the beginning, who knew that Xueqi had such powerful strength? Xueqi mumbled a few words and returned to the platform. Senior brother Lu Ming, am I okay? Xueqi looked at Lu Ming and asked timidly. Not bad. But Xueqi, you can't go easy on your enemies. If you don't kill them, they will kill you and your family. Do you understand? Lu Ming said. Xueqi understands. Xueqi nodded. This made the hearts of the disciples of the Heavenly God sect, Heavenly Universe Demon sect, and Poison sect sink. We have to change our tactics. The leader of the Heavenly Universe Demon sect said. The leaders of the Heavenly God sect and Poison sect looked pale. They looked at each other and nodded helplessly. In the beginning, they wanted to eliminate the Dragon God Valley in advance by taking turns. But now, the Dragon God Valley had Xueqi who could kill top supreme talents. This was troublesome. If they took turns to take turns, they might lose their lives. By then, they wouldn't even be able to participate in the treasure assembly. They could only take the same path as 3 years ago and eliminate a few weaker sects to maintain their position in the top 10. This made them want to vomit blood. They came aggressively at the beginning and wanted to eliminate the Dragon God Valley first. But now, they had to take the same path as 3 years ago. There was nothing more ironic than this. The disciples of the 3 major sects, especially Luo Shuehan and Mo Yang, looked even gloomier. Could it be that things would really develop like they did 3 years ago? Many people thought so. If that was the case, the Heavenly God sect and the other 2 major sects would be humiliated. After that, the Heavenly Universe Demon sect began to send people to challenge the weaker sections. It was the Dragon God Valley's turn to continue killing the supreme talents of the three major sections. But the three major sects had no choice but to accept it. Round after round, the battles continued. After many rounds, the three weakest factions were finally eliminated by the Celestial Sect, the Sky Universe Demon Sect and the Desire Poison Sect. The top 10 was born. After the top 10 was born, the Heavenly God Sect, Heavenly Universe Demon Sect, and Poison Sect finally took action against the Dragon God Valley. Let's take turns to eliminate the Dragon God Valley. The eyes of the supreme talents of the three major sects were burning. The Heavenly God Sect first sent a supreme talent to challenge the Dragon God Valley. The supreme talent of the Ice Dragon Valley was defeated. Then, the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect sent a supreme talent to fight the leader of the Dragon God Valley. The battle was intense, but in the end, the supreme talent of the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect was stronger. He came prepared and defeated the leader of the Dragon God Valley. Chapter 1684. The situation was becoming more and more similar to 3 years ago. However, would Qiu Yingying and Su Lei be able to fend off the attacks? Soon, it was the Desire Poison Sect's turn. Qiu Yingying must be skilled in soul attacks. She has a strong soul and can create illusions. You just have to remain calm and use your poisonous insects to deal with Qiu Yingying. Luo Xuehan sent a message to the Desire Poison Sect's genius. The Desire Poison Sect's genius's eyes lit up and he cupped his fists at Luo Xuehan to express his gratitude. Humph, Lu Ming, don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you found someone skilled in soul power. Let's see how she'll die. Luo Xuehan looked at Lu Ming, her eyes flashing coldly. Sensing Luo Xuehan's gaze, Lu Ming's lips curled into a faint sneer. Whoosh! The Desire Poison Sect's genius jumped onto the fighting stage and challenged Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying stepped onto the fighting stage and stood to the side without moving. The two of them faced each other. The Desire Poison Sect's genius emitted a poisonous gas from his body. At the same time, poisonous insects flew out of his body and circled around him. However, the Desire Poison Sect's genius did not attack. Instead, the poisonous gas around him surged toward Qiu Yingying. At this moment, Qiu Yingying's eyes turned pitch black. They were like two deep wells, pitch black and unfathomable. At that moment, the Desire Poison Sect's genius realized that the scene around him had changed. It had turned into hell. Countless demons waved their demonic weapons and charged toward him. Illusions. It's all illusions. The genius of the Desire Poison Sect told himself that he would stand still and let the fiends slash at him. Those abyss devils rushed past like phantoms. Haha, it's useless. It's all illusions. The Desire Poison Sect's youth was overjoyed. He circulated his true origin and released poisonous gas. He could not see where Qiu Yingying was because of the illusions. However, as long as he filled the fighting stage with poisonous gas, Qiu Yingying, who had an ordinary spiritual body, would not be able to hold on for long. At that moment, Qiu Yingying stepped forward and walked toward the Desire Poison Sect's genius. Many people watched anxiously. Qiu Yingying had killed a genius of the Celestial God Sect just like that. Would it be the same as the last time? Qiu Yingying arrived in front of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy and thrust her sword forward. However, at that moment, the poisonous insects that were flying around the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy suddenly transformed into a battle sword and charged toward Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying's expression changed. She blocked the attack with her long sword, but her body shook and was sent flying. At the same time, wisps of poisonous gas crawled up Qiu Yingying's body and corroded her protective Zhanyuan and domain. Haha, this move of hers is useless. The poisonous insects of the Desire Poison Sect can sense her aura and automatically attack her. This woman is dead for sure. In the stands, Luo Xuehan laughed heartily, revealing a smug expression. You're not afraid of being slapped in the face again? Lu Ming glanced at Luo Xuehan indifferently. Humph. She's proficient in soul power and can create illusions. Don't think that I can't see through it. But now, illusions are useless. With her cultivation, she's doomed. Luo Xuehan sneered with a confident expression. But at this moment, the situation on the battle stage suddenly changed. Da! Qiu Yingying shouted. Two pitch-black sword lights shot out from her eyes and pierced into the body of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy. The Desire Poison Sect's prodigy let out a shrill cry as poisonous gas surged around his body. In the next moment, the prodigy of the Desire Poison Sect's prodigy collapsed on the battle stage. Dead. The prodigy of the Desire Poison sect had died just like that. How could this be? Everyone was shocked. They had only seen Xueqi shout and the prodigy of the Desire Poison sect had died. He was a top prodigy. Bam! Luo Xuehan slammed his palm on his seat, shattering it. His face was burning. He had just said that Xueqi was doomed, but in the next moment, the prodigy of the Desire Poison sect had died. It was like a slap to his face. Luo Xuehan, won't your face swell? Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. Everything was within Lu Ming's expectations. Xueqing's current soul power was too strong. It was equivalent to the soul power of a LV9 martial royal realm martial artist. Previously, Xueqi had only used the soul power of a LV7 martial royal realm martial artist. Just now, Xueqi had unleashed her strongest soul power and used the divine sword art. The prodigy of the Desire Poison sect was unable to resist and his soul was destroyed. In this competition where the strongest cultivator was only a LV6 martial royal realm martial artist, Xueqi was unbeatable. 3 years ago, when Lu Ming had participated in the treasure sorting convention, his soul power was not as strong as Xueqing's. Luo Xuehan's face turned red when he heard Xueqing's disdainful voice. The prodigies of the Celestial God sect, the Sky Universe Demon sect, and the Desire Poison sect were silent. She had killed a top prodigy with just a shout. How could they continue the battle? Would it work if they took turns? Would they be courting death? How many times could she launch such an attack with her soul power? They had no idea. Xueqi took her opponent's storage ring and returned to the stage. The competition continued. There were only 2 people left in the Dragon God Valley, but no one dared to challenge them. Soon, it was the Dragon God Valley's turn. Su Lei stepped onto the fighting ring and looked at one of the top prodigies of the Celestial God sect. The top genius of the Heavenly God sect wore a solemn expression. After exchanging 2 blows with Su Lei, he actually wanted to rush off the fighting stage, not daring to continue fighting. Dark Een River. Su Lei intertwined with Su Lei and the Dark Een River swept toward her opponent. No! Her opponent was terrified. He used all his strength to resist the attack, but the result was his death. He froze to death in the Dark Een River. The Celestial God sect had lost 2 top prodigies. Damn it! What should we do? What should we do? The 2 girls from the Dragon God Valley are too strong. We can't defeat them. The top prodigies of the Celestial God sect, the Sky Universe Demon sect, and the Desire Poison sect panicked. If they were targeted by Su Lei and Xueqi, they would die. The remaining top prodigies of the 3 sects were especially afraid. With their talents they did not want to die here. Lu Ming, I will make the Dragon God Valley pay with their blood at the treasure sorting assembly. Luo Xuehan said coldly from the spectator's stand. Then, he rose into the air and left. He did not want to watch what happened next. The result seemed to have been decided. The remaining prodigies of the 3 sects had lost their courage to fight. They only wanted to save their own lives. Of course they could save their own lives, but it would be embarrassing. Humph! Mo Yang also stood up and left after Luo Xuehan. Sure enough, when it was the Celestial God sect's turn to challenge, they sent out a top prodigy. However, he did not challenge the Dragon God Valley. Instead, he challenged a top prodigy from the Sky Universe Demon sect. Then, the 2 of them exchanged a few blows before both of them left the fighting ring. They were despised by everyone. Chapter 1685. The Celestial Divinity sect and the Empyrean Demon sect's actions were obviously to save their own lives. Otherwise, when the Dragon God Valley challenged them, another elite genius would die. When it was the Empyrean Demon sect's turn, they also sent out a top genius to challenge a top genius from the Celestial God sect. The 2 of them exchanged a few blows and fell off the fighting ring. In this way, the top geniuses from the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect were all defeated. Ha ha ha, what are they doing? Are they playing house? Tian Chue laughed loudly and his voice echoed throughout the area. Senior brother, there's something you don't know. These people bully the weak and fear the strong. They bully those who are easy to bully and act all high and mighty. When they see that they are no match for them, they are scared to death. In order to save their lives, they will resort to any means. Xuening Xin added. No wonder Mo Yang and Luo Xuehan ran away so quickly. They probably can't stand it anymore. Tian Chue grinned. The two of them echoed each other, and the people from the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect were so angry that they almost vomited blood. However, they could not refute them. It was too embarrassing. This time, the sects had lost all their face. It was even more embarrassing than 3 years ago. 3 years ago they could still fight. This time they did not even dare to fight. I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. I'll take my leave too. At this time, some disciples of the Celestial God sect and the Empyrean Demon sect who were above the 7th level of the martial royal realm stood up and left. It was too embarrassing to stay any longer. The people from the Dragon God Valley were extremely happy. They felt that their minds were clear and their thoughts were clear. This time, the Dragon God Valley had not lost a single person but had killed so many top geniuses from the Celestial God sect. It was too satisfying. More people knew that it was because of Lu Ming. It was all because of Lu Ming that this was the outcome. If Lu Ming had not taken out the life-saving talisman, a group of people would have died when they were targeted by the 3 sections. Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were also brought in by Lu Ming. They did not expect Su Lei and Qiu Yingying to be so terrifying. This time, they had slapped the faces of the Celestial God sect, the Empyrean Demon sect and the Poison sect. Then, the competition continued. When it was the Desire Poison sect's turn, they no longer had any top prodigies. The only one they had was killed by Qiu Yingying. They sent out a random prodigy to challenge another sect. There was no suspense in the next challenge. Every time it was Dragon God Valley's turn to challenge, one of the 3 sects would definitely be killed. As a result, the 3 great sects had no desire to continue fighting. They would directly challenge each other. Every time, both sides would suffer great losses. Their goal was to preserve their lives. This continued until the Heavenly Divine sect, Heavenly Universe Devil sect, and Poison Desire sect were the first to be eliminated. This process was very similar to what happened 3 years ago. However, this time, the remaining top geniuses from the other sects were unable to defeat Su Lei and Qiu Yingying. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was alone. At that time, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 4th layer of the Martial Emperor realm, so they could take turns to fight him. But this time, Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were 2 people, so they could take turns to rest. Fighting in a chaotic battle was not very effective. In the end, the geniuses had no choice but to tell Qiu Yingying and Su Lei that it was just a friendly match. They were defeated one by one. The rest of the competition was very boring because there was no more suspense. In the end, only Su Lei and Qiu Yingying were left in the fighting ring. After 3 years, Dragon God Valley had won the Treasure Peaking Convention again without losing a single person. This had never happened before in history. The Saint Realm Elder of the Heavenly Divine sect was as black as charcoal. After giving the 7 Emperor Region elixirs to Su Lei and Qiu Yingying, he left with the disciples of the Heavenly Divine sect. The Heavenly Universe Devil sect and Poison Desire sect also left with their tails between their legs. The Saint Realm Elder of Dragon God Valley walked out, grinning from ear to ear. The battle ended with Dragon God Valley's complete victory. The disciples of Dragon God Valley happily returned to their encampment. Junior brother Lu Ming, you must be careful at the Treasure Peaking Convention in 7 days. I'm afraid Mo Yang and Luo Shuihan will target you. Zifeng said worriedly. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled. Everyone went back to their rooms to prepare for the Treasure Peaking Convention in 7 days. Lu Ming also went to his room, but before he reached it, a disciple of Dragon God Valley came to report to Lu Ming that someone wanted to see Lu Ming. Lu Ming was curious. Who could it be? There was a quiet bamboo forest at the back of the mountain of Dragon God Valley. When Lu Ming stepped into the bamboo forest, his eyes lit up. In front of him was a lady in a white dress. She was beautiful and stood in the bamboo forest like a fairy from a painting. Xian Yanjuan. Although Xian Yanjuan and Xian Yanqing looked almost the same, Lu Ming could still recognize him at a glance. Lu Ming did not expect the person looking for him to be Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan, long time no see. Lu Ming stepped forward and said faintly. Ever since the Sky God sect and other sects went to the Divine Ruins mainland to recruit disciples, Xian Yanjuan was chosen by the Sky God sect and came to the Yuan continent. They had not seen each other for almost 6 years. Xian Yanjuan had come to the Yuan continent 2 years earlier than them. All these years, Xian Yanjuan had not shown himself. Why did he look for Lu Ming now? Long time no see indeed. I already know about the Divine Wilderness mainland. Xian Yanjuan said with a faint smile. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he looked at Xian Yanjuan and said, "You sent people to the divine wilderness?" "That's right. But don't worry, I did not interfere with the matters of the divine wilderness mainland. After all, the divine wilderness mainland is too small. It's not enough to fight for it. It's good that the Xie family ended up like that." Xian Yanjuan said softly. "You came to look for me because of this?" Lu Ming asked as he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. "Of course not. I came to look for you because of the divine sun. I want to tell you a secret about the divine sun," Xian Yanjuan said. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He did not speak and looked at Xian Yanjuan. "Lu Ming, let me tell you. The divine sun has broken through to the great success bright sage realm not long ago," Xian Yanjuan continued. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The divine sun had indeed broken through. Moreover, the divine sun has cultivated a secret skill. If he explodes it, he can increase his combat strength for a short period of time. Xian Yanjuan continued. "Why are you telling me this?" Lu Ming asked. Why would Xian Yanjuan be so kind to tell him the divine sun's secret? One had to know that Xian Yanjuan was also a member of the Celestial Divinity Sect and the Saintess of the Celestial Divinity Sect. Back when Lu Ming first came to the Yuan continent and entered the Emperor Tsong's secret realm, Xian Yanjuan had even asked someone to kill him. Now, he was so kind to remind him of the divine sun's secret. Lu Ming was naturally puzzled. "I'll say the same thing again. The divine wilderness mainland is too small. Now, look at the Tsong state and even the entire Yuan continent." Chapter 1686. Lu Ming understood. Xian Yanjuan was very ambitious. She wanted to control the celestial sect. However, in order to control the celestial sect, she had to get rid of the god Sun first, because the god Sun was the most popular candidate for the next sect master of the celestial sect. With the god Sun, it would be more difficult for Xian Yanjuan to control the celestial sect. She wanted to borrow Lu Ming's hand to get rid of the god Sun, so she told Lu Ming this secret. "I'm only a half-step sage now, but the god Sun is already in the great success stage of the bright sage realm. I'm afraid I'm no match for the god Sun. Even if you tell me this, I'm afraid it's useless." Lu Ming stared at Xian Yanjuan and said, "You came from a remote family in the divine wilderness continent, unified the divine wilderness, established the Dragon Alliance, and even killed all the experts in the divine ruins continent. Lu Ming, I believe that the god Sun won't be a problem for you," Xian Yanjuan said. After she finished speaking, she smiled in a flirtatious manner. Then, she turned around and left. This woman was very ambitious. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he had to admit that Xian Yanjuan's information was very useful to Lu Ming. The god Sun had already broken through to the great success stage of the bright sage realm, and he knew a secret technique that allowed him to have a short burst of combat strength. When Lu Ming's cultivation level was still low, he had come into contact with many secret skills that allowed one to increase their combat power within a short period of time. However, those secret skills and means were only useful when one's cultivation level was low. At his current cultivation level, those secret skills were completely useless. In this way, Lu Ming was mentally prepared. Otherwise, he would be in danger if the god Sun suddenly burst out. Great success stage of the bright sage realm? Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he returned to his room. After entering the mountain and river diagram, Lu Ming took out a pile of dragon bones and began to devour and refine them. This pile of dragon bones was bought by Lu Ming in the Supreme Treasure Pavilion. They were the bones of a great sage true dragon, and their spiritual essence was preserved very well. Time passed day by day. Soon, it was time for the treasure sorting convention. As for Lu Ming, he had finally refined all 3,000 kilograms of dragon bones. Still not enough. Lu Ming sighed softly. Even after refining all 3,000 kilograms of great sage-level dragon bone, Lu Ming's spirit body still hadn't evolved. It was still a low-grade spirit body. The amount of true dragon essence needed to evolve the heavenly spiritual body was beyond imagination. A huge amount of essence energy was stored in Lu Ming's body, but it hadn't accumulated to the point of evolution. In the future, he would need to refine more true dragon essence before the energy would erupt and evolve. It's almost time for the treasure sorting convention. Lu Ming got up and exited the mountain and river diagram. As soon as he left the mountain and river diagram, he ran into Tian Chue, Xuening Xin, Su Lei, Qiu Yingying, Qiu Hao, and Lu Xiangxiang. Ninth junior brother. You've finally come out of seclusion. The treasure sorting convention is about to begin. Let's go and meet up with the others. Tian Xue said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. The group flew towards an open space. When they arrived, they found that there were already many people there. In the middle of the open space were the participants of the treasure sorting convention. Lu Ming, Tian Xue, and Xueqi flew down and met up with the others. Junior brother Lu Ming. Zifeng nodded at Lu Ming kindly. There were others who also greeted Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled in response. Of course, there were also cold gazes that looked at Lu Ming, such as Yin Zisong. They were surrounded by disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley. There were even elders among them. Second senior brother. Third senior brother. Lu Ming looked around and saw his second senior brother Long Yuanshan and third senior brother Yang Tianzong. The two of them nodded and smiled at Lu Ming. At this time, an old man in a purple robe walked over in the air. There were several other old men beside him, each of them exuding a vast aura. Purple Dragon Valley Master. Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He did not expect the Purple Dragon Valley Master to come personally. Among the 7 valleys of the Dragon God Valley, the Purple Dragon Valley was undoubtedly in the top 3. The Purple Dragon Valley Master was also a rare expert in the Dragon God Valley. I will lead the treasure sorting convention this time. You must do your best to bring glory to the Dragon God Valley. Those who contribute in the treasure sorting convention will be heavily rewarded by the sect. Of course, if you are in danger, I hope you will prioritize your own safety. Do you understand? The Purple Dragon Valley Master said loudly as he landed in front of them. Yes. Everyone replied. All right, let's go. The Purple Dragon Valley Master and a few other elders flew into the air. Lu Ming and the rest followed behind them. Behind them were a large number of disciples of the Dragon God Valley who were there to watch. The venue of the treasure sorting convention was at the peak of the Tsang Mountain. There was a huge fighting stage there, surrounded by rows of seats. It was huge and could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. When Lu Ming and the rest landed, a few other sects had already arrived. The Dragon God Valley randomly chose a seat and landed. There were thousands of people, but they only occupied a small area. Then, the other sects landed one after another. There were many of them, and each sect had thousands of people. Only the Life and Death Sword sect was an exception. All of them added up to less than 100 people. The Life and Death Sword sect had very few people to begin with. Swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. One by one, the sects landed. Heavenly Universe Demon Sect, Heavenly God Sect, and so on. When the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect arrived, Lu Ming looked over. Then, a trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes. He did not see Xian Yanqing. Mo Yang looked coldly at Lu Ming with a sinister smile on his face. In the direction of the Heavenly God Sect, Luo Shuihan also looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. Lu Ming saw Xian Yanjuan, but he was a little surprised. This was because Xian Yanjuan was sitting in the audience's seat, not the contestant's seat. Xian Yanjuan is not participating? 7 days ago, when Lu Ming saw Xian Yanjuan, he vaguely felt that Xian Yanjuan's cultivation was very profound. He was at least a half-saint, and his realm was even stronger than Lu Ming's. However, Xian Yanjuan hid it very well, so Lu Ming could not see through Xian Yanjuan's specific cultivation. With such a cultivation, why is he not participating? Lu Ming was a little puzzled. Every time the treasure sorting convention was held, only 10 sects would participate. The other 3 top sects had already been eliminated in the treasure sorting convention, but there was still a large number of people who came to watch. In addition to the 13 top sects, there were also some small sects and forces who came to watch. This was the biggest event in the Tsang state, which was held once every 3 years. Naturally, it attracted many people. That's the Divine Child. The Divine Child is here. Suddenly, someone let out a cry of surprise. Everyone looked over. The Divine Child was dressed in a white robe and bathed in holy light. He was like the son of a god, stepping on the air. He did not exude a strong aura, but he gave off a strong pressure. He stood high in the air above the battle platform, looking down on everyone like a god. He was extremely arrogant. Lu Ming, I hope you can pass the treasure sorting convention. Chapter 1687. Lu Ming looked at the Divine Sun and sneered. Don't worry, I'll kill you after the treasure sorting convention. Haha, how arrogant. Lu Ming, you won't have the chance to fight with senior brother Divine Sun. The treasure sorting convention will be your death date. Luo Xuehan laughed with contempt. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not say anything else. There was no point in saying anything more. The Divine Sun did not say anything either. He took a step forward and appeared on the celestial sect's stand. Then, an old man rose to the sky and stood in the air above the fighting stage, overlooking the whole place. This old man was the judge of the convention. He was from the Peyuan family. The Peyuan family had been eliminated during the treasure-determining convention. Every time, the judge of the treasure-determining convention was someone from the eliminated sect. That way, it would be fairer and wouldn't be biased towards any side. I, Peyuan Gue, am the judge of this convention. Now, I will announce the rules of the treasure sorting convention. This treasure sorting convention will be different from the past because the rules have been changed. Peyuan Gue's voice echoed throughout the place. This convention will be divided into 2 rounds. A total of 10 sects will participate and each sect will send out 20 people. The first round will be a selection. The 10 sects will enter 10 array worlds and hunt demonic beasts. Some of the demonic beasts will have a wind core in their bodies while others do not. Your goal is to hunt for wind cores and then rank the top 80 based on the number of wind cores you have. Only the top 80 sects will enter the second round. Peyuan Gue explained. Everyone understood immediately. In the first round, only 80 people would be able to advance. The rest would be eliminated. The second round will be the point competition. 80 people will take turns to fight each other. Everyone will have to fight once, regardless of whether they are from the same sect or from different sections. Every victory will earn you 1 point. In the end, the sect with the most points will be the champion of this year's treasure sorting convention. That sect will have the right to control the 2 ancient treasures until the next treasure sorting convention. I will announce the rules of the second round when the second round begins. Peyuan Gue continued to speak and gave a rough account of the events of the second round. It's a point competition. Zifeng's eyes moved. This way, whichever sect has the most people in the first round will have an advantage in the second round. Lu Ming said. The more people who entered the second round, the higher the probability of obtaining points. Naturally, the total points of a sect would be higher. Now, I'll open the formation, Peyuan Gue said. Then, a powerful aura emanated from his body. With a wave of his hand, saint power surged. In the sky, 10 doors of light suddenly appeared. There are 10 array worlds here. These 10 array worlds are almost identical, and the difficulty is also the same. Now, each sect will enter a array world to hunt for the wind core. You only have half an hour. Breaking Origin returns announced. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Peyuan Gue finished speaking, the participants from the 10 great sects all rose into the air. Each sect had 20 people. Everyone randomly chose a door and rushed in. Dragon God Valley chose the nearest door, and the 20 of them rushed in. The next moment, they found themselves in a grassland. At first glance, the grassland was boundless. This world was a world created by a formation. It wasn't real. Everything here was fake. Only the wind core was real. Their target was the wind core. Roar! Not far away, a wind wolf stared at them and roared. Beast, check if there's a wind core. A 9th-layer martial dominator rushed out and pounced on the wind wolf. The wind wolf howled and dashed forward like a gust of wind, causing the disciple of the Dragon God Valley to miss his target. Where do you think you're going? The disciple felt embarrassed that he missed, so he continued to pounce on the wind wolf. However, wind wolf's figure moved like the wind, and his speed was astonishing. For a moment, the disciple was unable to take him down. How fast? Are all the beasts here so fast? Someone's face darkened. If all the beasts here were so fast, it would not be easy to hunt for the wind core. We only have half an hour. Let's move quickly. Zifeng said. It's better for us to team up. That way, we can hunt faster. Lu Ming said. If the beasts here were so fast, a single person would not be able to hunt for the wind core as fast as a team. All right, let's team up. Let's go. Zifeng said. Lu Ming went with Tian Chue and Xuening Xin. Zifeng went with 2 disciples of the Violet Dragon Valley. The others followed suit and flew into the distance in groups of 3 to 5. The array world was extremely spacious, as if there was no end to it. The group dispersed into the array world and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming, Tian Xue, and Xueqi flew forward at a rapid pace. They had covered a distance of a few thousand li in just a few moments. There are a few beasts below. Xueqi glanced downward. Kill! Tian Xue raised his giant hammer and swung it at the beasts. Bang! The giant hammer struck the ground, causing the ground to tremble and dust to fill the air. Whoosh! Whoosh! A few figures dashed out from the dust, which turned out to be the beasts. Their figures were as fast as the wind, allowing them to dodge Tian Xue's attack. They're really fast. Watch me. Tian Xue waved his hand and the giant hammer in his hand flew out like a bolt of lightning. Like a meteorite, it smashed into one of the beasts. The beast was crushed by the huge force and exploded. But at this time, the other demonic beasts had already fled far away. Lu Ming cast the Tempest Steps. His figure flashed and he chased after a demonic beast. Within a few breaths, he caught up with the demonic beast. He threw a punch and the demonic beast disintegrated, turning into energy and dissipating. No wind core. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. There was no wind core among the beasts. Lu Ming then went to Tian Xue. Tian Xue said with a bitter face, "Ninth junior brother, there is no wind core. Have you found it?" No. Lu Ming shook his head. Peyuan Gue said that some beasts do not have wind cores and some do. It seems that the probability of some beasts not being very high. Xueqi said, "The beasts here are fast, and the probability of them having wind cores is not high. Moreover, we only have half an hour. If this continues, it will be difficult to hunt for enough wind cores." Tian Xue said, "It's fine. I have a way. Let's go find the beasts first." Lu Ming said. Then, the three of them continued to fly and look for beasts. There was no lack of beasts on the grassland. After a while, they saw a few beasts. 9 seals of the Divine Gate. Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate. 9 sealing doors appeared and froze the beasts in place. Chapter 1688. Haha, we found the wind core. Tian Xue laughed heartily. After one of the demonic beasts was killed, it dropped a crystal. The crystal was translucent with green energy lingering around it. This was the wind core. This wind core had a special mark. It could be seen at a glance whether it was taken out of this place or not. Let's continue, Lu Ming said. Next, they continued to search for beasts. Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate to seal the beasts, while Tian Xue and Xueqi were responsible for killing them. The wind cores were divided equally among the 3. The beasts here were not very strong except for their speed. Tian Xue and Xueqi could easily kill them. However, the number of beasts with wind cores was very small. On average, only 1 out of 10 beasts had wind cores. This greatly increased the difficulty of obtaining wind cores. However, Lu Ming and the other 2 worked together very quickly. They did not need to waste any time when encountering beasts. Lu Ming used the seals while Tian Xue and Xueqi dealt with the beasts in an instant. 10 minutes later, the 3 of them had already killed hundreds of demonic beasts and obtained 30 wind cores, 10 for each of them. Roar! 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 Roars came from the front. The 3 of them were shocked and continued to move forward. Soon, a large group of beasts appeared in front of them. Those were wind leopards. They were even faster than wind wolves. There were hundreds of wind leopards in this group. They were running on the grassland. So many of them. Haha, we're rich. Tian Xue's eyes lit up and he grinned. Roar! Roar! The wind leopards also noticed Lu Ming and the other 2. With a few loud roars, the wind leopards scattered. They were like hundreds of lightning bolts, flying in all directions. There were too many of them. Even if Lu Ming used the 9 seals of the Divine Gate, he could only seal a few of them. Bubble, we're counting on you, Lu Ming whispered. Bubble had already appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. At this time, it waved its paw, and the space in front of it rippled like water. Then, the wind leopards all stopped in the air, motionless. Kill! Tian Xue and Xueqi were very excited and charged at the wind leopards. As for Lu Ming, he also flew up. With a wave of his hand, spear light shot out, killing the wind leopards one by one. The wind leopards froze in midair before exploding. Pieces of sparkling and translucent wind cores appeared in the air. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of wind leopards were all killed by them, and they obtained dozens of wind cores. Ha, awesome, too awesome. Skyhammer is incomparably excited as he swings his hammer around. Xueqi was also smiling. Hunting wind leopards like this was indeed very satisfying. The two of them glanced at the bubble on Lu Ming's shoulder and didn't say anything. They naturally wouldn't ask about Lu Ming's secret. Junior brother, let's go hunt a large group of demonic beasts. Tian Chue's eyes sparkled. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Immediately, the three of them flew into the air and specifically chose large groups of demonic beasts to hunt. Normally, the three of them wouldn't stop when they saw 1 or 2 demonic beasts. They would only stop when they saw more than 10 demonic beasts. This grassland didn't lack demonic beasts. Not long after, they encountered a group of demonic beasts. There were more than 100 of them, and their speed was astonishing. If they encountered so many demonic beasts, it would be impossible to kill all of them. They would only be able to kill a portion of them. These demonic beasts were too fast, and they fled in all directions. It was difficult to kill all of them. However, Lu Ming and the others were different. Lu Ming had Bubble, and Bubble used the space-time laws to freeze the demonic beasts, allowing them to slaughter them. Their efficiency greatly increased. Half an hour was too short, and it passed very quickly. Lu Ming and the others were flying when the space trembled. They felt their bodies tighten, and in the next moment, they returned to the place where they had just entered. The other Dragon God Valley disciples also appeared there. Time is up so quickly. I only hunted a few wind cores. Me too. Some of the Dragon God Valley disciples sighed. Those who were unlucky didn't have any wind cores after killing demonic beasts. After half an hour, they only obtained a few wind cores. Senior brother Zifeng, how many wind cores did you get? Someone asked Zifeng. I got 31 wind cores, Zifeng said. He then looked at Lu Ming and said, Junior brother Lu Ming, how's your harvest? Our harvest is okay. Lu Ming nodded and said, Senior brother Zifeng got more than 30 wind cores. It seems that we don't need too many wind cores to enter the top 80. 20 wind cores are enough. Let's distribute them. Distribute? The others looked at each other. Most of them didn't even get 20 wind cores. How were they going to distribute them? Lu Ming, Tian Chue, and Xueqi looked at each other. Then with a thought, a large pile of wind cores appeared in the air. The other Dragon God Valley disciples were stunned. All of them were dumbfounded. There were too many. Lu Ming and the others had a few hundred wind cores in total. That many? Zifeng was also dumbfounded. Lu Ming smiled. The three of them got more than 280 wind cores in total. The three of us will each take 30 wind cores. The rest will be distributed to those with higher cultivation so that more of us can enter the second round. Senior brother Zifeng, you can distribute them, Lu Ming said. Then he, Tian Chue, and Xueqi each took 30 wind cores, leaving more than 190 wind cores. They didn't need many wind cores, as long as they could enter the second round. The most important thing was that more people from the Dragon God Valley could enter the second round. The more people that entered, the higher the chances of getting points in the second round. Even if they got one more point, it could be the deciding factor in the end. This time, Lu Ming must help the Dragon God Valley get first place and get the 2 ancient treasures in their hands. Only then could Lu Ming get the fragments of the prison-suppressing monument. All right. Zifeng nodded and began to distribute the wind cores. He didn't distribute the wind cores to those with lower cultivation. Instead, he distributed the wind cores to those with higher cultivation. In the end, only 5 people didn't get any wind cores. These 5 people had the lowest cultivation. Including the wind cores that he got, the others each had about 20 wind cores. Based on the number of wind cores that Zifeng got, 20 wind cores should be enough. The 5 people didn't complain. Their cultivation was the lowest, so even if they entered the second round, it would be difficult for them to get any points. All right, let's go out, Zifeng said. Then, the group went to the light door in the sky. In the next moment, they appeared above the fighting stage. At the same time, the other sects also walked out of the light door. Now, take out your wind cores. One by one, I will record the number. The 80 people who get the most wind cores will enter the second round. Returning to Dao. Let's go first. Chapter 1689. Alright, take out your wind cores. Returning to Tao. Luo Xuehan waved his hand and pieces of sparkling wind cores appeared in the sky. There were a total of 43 wind cores. 43 wind cores, not bad. Returning to Tao, someone beside him recorded the number of wind cores that Luo Xuehan had. Luo Xuehan's face was cold and arrogant. He did not believe that the others would have more wind cores than him. Following that, the other heavenly god sect disciples began to take out their wind cores. The second person had a much smaller number of wind cores, only 25 of them. However, the next 10 people each had 20 wind cores. However, when it came to the 11th person, he shook his head, indicating that he did not have any. Starting from the 11th person, the other 10 people shook their heads and retreated to the side. It seems that the heavenly god sect's wind cores have been redistributed to the 10 strongest people. Zifeng said. Lu Ming nodded. It was obvious that they were not the only ones. The other sects had also distributed their wind cores. The weaker wind cores were given to the stronger wind cores in the hope that more people would enter the second round. Indeed, most of the sects that came after had their wind cores distributed. Only the stronger ones had wind cores while the weaker ones did not have a single one. Of course, it was impossible for every sect to have as many wind cores as the heavenly god sect. The top 10 people each had more than 20 wind cores. Some of the top 10 people had at least 10 wind cores. One by one, the sects went up. Luo Xuehan looked at Lu Ming and the rest and sneered. What's wrong? Why aren't the Divine Dragon Valley going up to check the wind cores? Don't you have too few wind cores? We have too many wind cores and we don't want to scare you. Tian Chui grinned. Too many? You're shameless. Luo Xuehan sneered. Let's go up. At that moment, Zifeng spoke and stepped forward to returning to Tao. He waved his hand and a pile of wind cores appeared in front of him. There was a total of 31 wind cores. Haha, only 31 wind cores. Zifeng, you're ranked last among the Tsang state geniuses. Luo Xuehan sneered. Indeed, the other monstrous geniuses who had gone up to count all had over 30 pieces. Zifeng had the least. It was not that Zifeng's wind cores were not as good as the other geniuses. It was obvious that some of the other geniuses had taken some wind cores from other disciples, which was why they had so many of them. As for Zifeng, he did not take it from anyone else in Dragon God Valley. His thoughts were the same as Lu Ming and the others. As long as there were enough people, it would be fine. Zifeng smiled faintly and ignored Luo Xuehan. Then, Lu Ming stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, 30 wind cores appeared. Luo Xuehan narrowed her eyes and sneered. 30 pieces? Looks like quite a number of Dragon God Valley disciples have obtained wind cores in your hands, right? Lu Ming glanced indifferently at Luo Xuehan. His eyes were filled with ridicule and contempt, causing Luo Xuehan to feel even more displeased. Then, Tian Chui and Xueningshin stepped forward and each took out 30 wind cores, which shocked the others. Luo Xuehan's face became even gloomier. She said, It seems that your Dragon God Valley has gathered all the wind cores on you guys. You actually gave so many wind cores to 2 people in the first stage of the half-saints. It's really unwise. It seems that Dragon God Valley will be at the bottom this time. The others were shocked. Dragon God Valley had gathered most of the wind cores in the hands of Lu Ming and the others. That was why they had so many wind cores. Otherwise, they would not believe that Tian Chui and Xueningshin, 2 first-stage half-saints, would be able to obtain 30 wind cores. Idiots! Tian Chui said disdainfully. Luo Xuehan's eyes turned cold. Tian Chui dared to call her an idiot. You're courting death. Luo Xuehan's eyes flashed. Then, the others from Dragon God Valley stepped forward and took out their wind cores. 26 pieces, 25 pieces, 23 pieces. In the end, there were 15 people in Dragon God Valley, including Lu Ming and the others, and they took out more than 20 wind cores. Luo Xuehan was stunned. And so were the others. How is this possible? Someone shouted in disbelief. This was especially true for the geniuses from the other sects who were participating in the competition. They knew very well how fast the demonic beasts were and how hard it was to capture them. Dragon God Valley had obtained so many wind cores. Luo Xuehan's face was flushed red. Dragon God Valley doesn't have many wind cores, but only 15 people have obtained more than 20 wind cores. There are still 5 senior brothers who have not obtained any wind cores. I'm ashamed. Tian Xue stared at Luo Xuehan and sighed. Pfft. Some of the onlookers laughed out loud, especially the people from Dragon God Valley, who laughed out loud. Tian Xue was openly mocking Luo Xuehan. Some people are just shameless. Others don't want to talk to him, but he keeps asking to be slapped. Does he like the feeling of being slapped? Lu Ming said. His words were more direct and full of sarcasm. Luo Xuehan's face was incomparably gloomy as a cold light flickered continuously. His body was trembling from anger. Luo Xuehan took a deep breath to calm himself down. He snorted and said, "You're just lucky. When you enter the second round, you'll have to rely on your strength. Let's see how you'll die then." Luo Xuehan, remember what you said. Lu Ming replied coldly. In an instant, Dragon God Valley and Heavenly God Sect were at loggerheads. Both sides retreated to the side and waited quietly. Not long after, everyone was counted and Pa Yuangue started to announce the rankings. Pa Yuangue only announced the top 80 people. Without exception, the top 15 from Dragon God Valley had entered the second round, becoming the sect with the most people in the second round. The Heavenly God Sect with the second most people only had 10 people. The sect with the least number of people only had 4 people in the second round. There were a total of 10 sects and 80 people in the second round. On average, each sect had 8 people. Dragon God Valley had 15 of them, which had greatly exceeded the average. Lu Ming was ranked 9th, second only to Zi Feng. Of course, no one thought that Lu Ming's combat strength was enough to be ranked 9th and compete with the top 10 monstrous geniuses of the Tsang state. The number of wind cores didn't mean anything. Didn't they see that Tian Xue and Xuening had 30 wind cores? They were tied with Lu Ming. Many people from Dragon God Valley had 20 wind cores and were ranked in the top 10 or 20. Luck. Many people thought that Dragon God Valley must be lucky to have obtained a large number of wind cores. After the rankings were announced, everyone returned to their seats and waited for the second round to begin. Pa Yuangue looked around and started to announce the rules of the second round. As mentioned before, the second round of the competition was to take turns. Each person would have to fight with the others one by one. One victory would earn 1 point. Chapter 1690. However, there were some other rules in the process of the competition. For example, admitting defeat. Before the competition started, one could admit defeat. But once one admitted defeat, one would lose the right to participate in the following competitions and would be eliminated in advance. However, one could keep their points. For example, if one had already obtained 5 points and met an opponent he couldn't defeat, he could take the initiative to admit defeat before the battle started. This way, he could keep his 5 points, but would lose the right to participate in the following competitions. But once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. Once the battle started, one would either be defeated, rushed off the fighting ring, or killed. Only then would the battle end. Once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. However, if one rushed off the fighting ring, it would be considered a failure. Not only could one keep their current points, but they could also continue to participate in the following competitions. It was the same if one was defeated or knocked off the fighting ring. But once one was killed, one's points would be reduced to 0. In other words, no matter how many points one had, once one was killed, one would have 0 points. Therefore, the best choice was to keep one's life without admitting defeat. Moreover, the competition was different from the treasure sorting convention. It wasn't forbidden to use holy weapons. Because the participants of the treasure sorting convention were all powerful. Many of them were half-saints. They could only display the power of holy weapons if they used them. But there was one very important point. The winner of the convention would receive an extra 10 points. Therefore, the first place was especially important. 10 points could often decide the winner. The Celestial God sect had won many competitions in a row. The first place played an important role. Alright, the rules have been explained. Now, let's begin the second round. I'll randomly draw lots. The 2 people I draw will fight each other. When everyone has fought, the first round will end. Pa Yuangue said. Then he took out a box with the names of the 80 people who had entered the second round. Pa Yuangue drew 2 names. Long Bing, Luo Xuehan. Pa Yuangue called out their names. Many people were shocked. They didn't expect Luo Xuehan to fight in the first round of the second round. Luo Xuehan stood up and stepped onto the fighting ring. In the area of Dragon God Valley, a young man stood up with an ugly expression. Long Bing was one of the 15 people in Dragon God Valley. Long Bing's expression was very bad. He did not expect that the first person he met would be Luo Xuehan. However, there were a total of 80 people, and 15 of them were from the Dragon God Valley. Long Bing, you are no match for Luo Xuehan. Go up and admit defeat. Zifeng warned Long Bing. Long Bing nodded and jumped onto the fighting ring. Haha, looks like I'm pretty lucky. I'm going to meet someone from Divine Dragon Valley in the first round. Luo Xuehan laughed as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Now let the battle begin. Breaking Origin returns announced. Admit defeat. Luo Xuehan said indifferently. A look of struggle flashed in Long Bing's eyes. If he admitted defeat just like this, then his progress in the treasure auction would stop here, and he wouldn't be able to obtain a single point. In the second round, the Dragon God Valley would give out a large amount of contribution points for every point obtained. It was the same for the other sections. He was unwilling to admit defeat just like that. Bang! Long Bing took a heavy step and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. As long as he rushed down from the fighting ring, he would be considered to have lost this round. However, he could still continue to compete in the following rounds. He had the cultivation of the first stage of the half-sage realm, so it was still possible for him to obtain points in the following rounds. Oh no! Seeing that Long Bing didn't admit defeat and wanted to rush down from the fighting ring, Zifeng and the others were shocked. If he didn't admit defeat, then he would lose the chance to admit defeat. Haha, since you don't admit defeat, then I'll send you on your way. Luo Xuehan was overjoyed. His body was bathed in holy light. He moved like a ray of holy light and rushed toward Long Bing. In an instant, he caught up with Long Bing. With a wave of his hand, a holy light palm print blasted toward Long Bing. Long Bing's face turned pale. He moved and changed his direction, rushing to the other side. You can't escape. A cold light flashed in Luo Xuehan's eyes. He condensed a spear of divine punishment in his hand and shot it at lightning speed. Puchi! The spear of divine punishment directly pierced through one of Long Bing's legs. Long Bing's leg exploded. He screamed and fell to the ground with a look of despair on his face. Luo Xuehan took a step forward and appeared in front of Long Bing. His eyes were cold as he said, "You don't admit defeat when facing me. Only death awaits you." With a wave of his hand, a ray of holy light slashed and cut off one of Long Bing's arms. Blood splattered everywhere. Ah, Luo Xuehan, kill me if you want. Don't humiliate me. Long Bing roared. Bang! Luo Xuehan stepped on Long Bing's face and said coldly, "Do I need you to teach me whether I want to kill you or not? You people from the Dragon God Valley are all audacious. How dare you offend me? You all deserve to die." Puchi! Another ray of holy light slashed and cut off Long Bing's other arm. Damn it, Luo Xuehan. Do it if you want to. Zifeng roared like a violent dragon. The other people from the Dragon God Valley were also furious. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes grew colder. Luo Xuehan did it on purpose. He could have killed Long Bing in one move, but he tortured him like this to take revenge on the Dragon God Valley and Lu Ming. Haha, if you want to blame someone, blame Lu Ming. He doesn't know what's good for him. Luo Xuehan laughed and stomped on the ground. Long Bing exploded. Luo Xuehan looked at Lu Ming and smiled. So what if the Dragon God Valley has a lot of people in the second round? No matter how many people there are, I'll just kill them all. Luo Xuehan, you'd better admit defeat when you meet me. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. Lu Ming spoke, his voice as cold as a knife. He had to kill Luo Xuehan. You want to kill me? I'll wait for you. Luo Xuehan said coldly. Then, he jumped off the fighting ring. The first round of the competition ended just like that. Junior brothers and sisters, if you meet someone whose cultivation is too far apart, just admit defeat. Don't take any chances. Zifeng sent a voice transmission to the other participants of the Dragon God Valley. Everyone nodded. If the difference in cultivation was too great, they couldn't even rush off the fighting ring. The second round, Zifeng versus Lu Da. The voice of Origin Returner was heard. It's my turn in the second round. Zifeng got up and stepped onto the fighting ring. I'm really unlucky. A young man stood up in the Heavenly King's Hall's area. He was indeed unlucky to meet one of the top 10 monsters in the first round. Junior brother, just admit defeat. The monster from the Heavenly King's Hall urged. Luda stepped onto the fighting ring. When Origin Returner announced the start of the round, Luda admitted defeat. Admitting defeat meant that he was eliminated in advance. He wouldn't be able to participate in the next round. In this way, there were only 78 people left. In theory, all 80 people would have to fight, and in the end, everyone would have to fight 80 rounds. In reality, it was impossible to fight that many rounds. Chapter 1691. Luda admitted defeat. Zifeng received 1 point and returned to the spectator stand. Next, Yuan Pague continued to draw lots and the competition continued. In the third round, the two geniuses' cultivations were about the same. One of them was a stage 2 half-saint, while the other was a stage 1 half-saint. In fact, those who could enter the second round were all stage 1 half-saints. Many of them had superior earth spiritual bodies, and a few of them were medium earth spiritual bodies. They were the top geniuses of the top 10 sects in the Tsang prefecture. Each one of them was very strong. In this round, the stage 1 half-saint tried his best to get off the fighting ring. The difference of 1 level made it impossible for the stage 1 half-saint to win. In the end, the stage 1 half-saint paid a small price and got off the fighting ring. This way, he could at least continue to compete. The matches were carried out one after another. Soon, more than 30 matches had been carried out. Some people admitted defeat, while others were killed. Those who met one of the top 10 geniuses all admitted defeat. The difference was too big. They could only admit that they were unlucky. In the Dragon God Valley, there were also a few people who admitted defeat. However, Tian Chue and Xuening were lucky. Their opponents were stage 1 half-saints, just like them. There was no doubt that Tian Chue and Xuening were very powerful at the same level, so they both defeated their opponents and got 1 point. Lu Ming paid attention to Luo Xiang from the Life and Death Sword sect. Luo Xiang, who had competed with him in the Tsang Emperor Mystery Realm, had become very powerful. Stage 2 half-saint. And his spiritual body had become a superior earth spiritual body. He nurtured his sword soul for 15 years, and now his sword soul is feeding back to his spiritual body. What a terrifying cultivation method! Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Lu Ming's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds in the 100-tribe battlefield. However, Luo Xiang's cultivation speed was not inferior to his. It was really shocking. Moreover, Luo Xiang's combat strength was unfathomable. A stage 1 half-saint from the Desire Poison sect wanted to get off the fighting ring, but a sword light flashed and he was killed. This person is very strong. Even Zifeng furrowed his brows, revealing a solemn expression. Lu Ming against Hu Xiao. At this moment, the sound of returning origin breaking rang out. It was Lu Ming's turn. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, appearing on the battle stage. Lu Ming's opponent was a young genius from the Demon Castle, who was in the first stage of the half-saint realm. Roar! Hu Xiao roared and transformed into his true form, which was a gigantic demonic tiger. His eyes were filled with savagery as he said, Lu Ming, although your battle prowess is not bad, I'm not afraid of you. Let's fight. When Lu Ming was outside the treasure pavilion, he had slaughtered many second-stage half-saints with ease. However, those people's spiritual bodies were not of a high level. Hu Xiao, on the other hand, had a superior earthly spiritual body. When the referee announced the start of the match, Hu Xiao roared and pounced at Lu Ming. His claws were as sharp as blades as he clawed at Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was faster. In a flash, he appeared in front of Hu Xiao and punched him in the jaw. Hu Xiao's huge body was sent flying. He rolled a few times on the battle stage before he could get up. After getting up, Hu Xiao did not dare to continue fighting. He ran away and rushed down the battle stage. Lu Ming stood there and did not stop him. He watched as Hu Xiao rushed down the battle stage. The Demon Castle and Dragon God Valley had a good relationship. Lu Ming did not need to kill Hu Xiao. Moreover, Lu Ming could not show too much of his battle prowess. Otherwise, how could he lure the people of the Celestial Sect? Humph. It seems that Lu Ming's battle prowess is only average. His speed is a little faster, but his attack power is not too strong. He only injured Hu Xiao but did not kill him. That's normal. Demonic beasts have strong defense. Lu Ming's cultivation is not that high either. Sure enough, people were discussing. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the spectator stand. He had scored 1 point. The matches continued. Soon, all 80 people and 40 matches were over. After the end of this round of competition, only 60 out of 80 people could continue to participate in the next round of competition. The other 20 people were either killed or admitted defeat. In fact, there were 9 of the top 10 geniuses of Zhangzhou participating in the treasure pedestal meeting. The last one was from one of the 3 sects that had been eliminated. 9 geniuses were enough to make 9 people admit defeat. There were others who admitted defeat or were killed. After 1 round, there were only 60 people left. The number of people left would be even lower in the later rounds. In this round, 1 person from the Dragon God Valley was killed and 3 people admitted defeat. There were 11 people left. Out of these 11 people, 8 of them were defeated. They had scored 8 points. This score ranked them first among the top 10 sects for the time being. The Heavenly God sect was in second place with 6 points. Humph. They're only in the lead for now. Let's see where they'll rank when we kill those with points later. Luo Xuehan said coldly in the Heavenly God sect area. Next, Pa Yuangue put the names of the remaining 60 people into a box and started drawing lots again for the second round of matches. Lu Ming, Xueqi. Pa Yuangue announced the names. I didn't expect to be in the first round of the second round. Lu Ming smiled and stepped onto the fighting ring. At the same time, a young man jumped onto the fighting ring from the Heavenly God sect area. It's a disciple of the Heavenly God sect. Finally. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. You're not admitting defeat? Lu Ming asked. Humph, why should I admit defeat to you? Do you think you can kill me? The Heavenly God sect's genius, Xueqi, sneered. Lu Ming smiled and didn't say anything. Begin. Pa Yuangue announced. When Pa Yuangue's voice fell, Xueqi moved and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. He knew that he was no match for Lu Ming, but he had no problem rushing down the fighting ring. He had already obtained 1 point and didn't want to waste it. There was a hint of a smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. He moved and neared Xueqi in an instant. The black dragon spear appeared in his hands. It expanded rapidly and swept toward Xueqi. Xueqi was shocked. He didn't expect Lu Ming to be so fast. A milky white battle sword appeared in his hand. It was undoubtedly a holy weapon. He slashed at Lu Ming. Clang! The battle sword and the black dragon spear collided. Xueqi's body shook and slid back more than 10 meters. Lu Ming's body also shook. Lu Ming, your combat strength is only so. Fight. Xueqi saw that Lu Ming only pushed him back more than 10 meters, and Lu Ming's body also shook. Xueqi's confidence was boosted. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He held the black dragon spear in his hand and started a battle with Xueqi. Of course, this was a battle that Lu Ming had deliberately created. He still had to bait later on. If he suddenly revealed too much of his combat power and killed his opponent, the other members of the Celestial Divine Sect would not dare to fight Lu Ming and would simply admit defeat. Therefore, Lu Ming had to perform well. He exchanged more than 10 moves with Xueqi before his spear pierced through Xueqi's dantian and killed him. The Heavenly God sect's genius is only O. Chapter 1692. Damn it! Luo Xuehan's face was gloomy. The Divine Sun, on the other hand, was expressionless. Well done, junior brother. After Lu Ming returned to the spectator stand, Tian Chue laughed. After that, the competition continued. Compared to the first round, this round was much more intense. Many people had gained points, so naturally, they wouldn't give up easily. Unless they encountered the top 10 geniuses, they would admit defeat if the difference was too great. Round after round. Without a doubt, the top 10 geniuses didn't even need to make a move before their opponents admitted defeat. In this round, Xuaningxin was unlucky to encounter one of the top 10 geniuses, Wang Jian, so she had no choice but to admit defeat. As for Tian Chue, he was lucky enough to encounter another person of the same level. He defeated his opponent and gained 2 points. When the second round of 30 matches ended, another 16 people were eliminated. Only 44 people could continue to participate in the competition. Dragon God Valley still had 7 people, and they were still in first place. Then the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming was unsure if his luck was good or bad. He actually encountered another first-stage half-saint, who didn't admit defeat. As soon as the competition began, he rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. Lu Ming didn't chase after him and allowed him to rush down the fighting ring. In this way, Lu Ming easily gained 3 points. Zifeng of course also won. He also gained 3 points. However, Tian Xue's luck came to an end. In this round, he also encountered one of the top 10 geniuses, and it was Mo Yang. Tian Xue admitted defeat, which made Mo Yang snort coldly. Tian Xue had mocked Mo Yang many times. If Tian Xue didn't admit defeat, Mo Yang would definitely kill him. After the third round of the competition ended, there were only 30 people left. As the competition progressed, the number of people would get smaller and smaller. Therefore, in theory there were 80 people in the beginning. In reality, there was no need to fight so many battles. In the fourth round, there were only 30 people fighting. The cultivation of these 30 people could be said to be very strong. At this point, the first stage half-saints had all been eliminated. The rest were second stage half-saints. Of course, the others didn't know Lu Ming's specific cultivation because Lu Ming had been hiding it with his illusory breath. Peyuan Gue continued to draw lots. This round of battles was undoubtedly even more intense. Many people had similar cultivation levels, so they naturally wouldn't admit defeat so easily. The battle was incomparably intense. Perhaps it was due to luck, but the top 10 geniuses still did not encounter each other in this round. Instead, they defeated their opponents separately. Lu Ming met a second-stage semi-sage opponent in this round. His opponent naturally wouldn't admit defeat. So, he fought a fierce battle with Lu Ming. And, Lu Ming deliberately entangled with his opponent for dozens of moves. Then, he finally knocked his opponent out of the battle arena. After this round, there were still 26 people left. Dragon God Valley was still in the lead. Humph, that Lu Ming won't be arrogant for long. Someone from the Heavenly Divinity sect said unhappily. Then the fifth round, the sixth round. Slowly, the number of people dwindled. After the eighth round, there were only 18 people left. Lu Ming's luck was surprisingly good. He didn't encounter any of the top 10 evildoers. He won all the way and obtained 8 points. As for the top 10 monsters, they did not encounter each other either. At this time, the ninth round began. Wang Jian, Mo Yang. At this time, Yuan Gui's voice was heard, which shocked many people. Are the top 10 monsters finally going to collide? Here comes the highlight. Now, there were only 18 people left, including 9 of the top 10 monsters. They were definitely going to encounter each other. Next was the real exciting part of the treasure sorting convention. Previously, the top 10 monsters had defeated everyone else, and each of them had obtained 8 points. But now, some people's points would stop increasing, while others would continue to increase. The total points of the top 10 sects would be pulled apart. Wang Jian and Mo Yang stepped into the battle arena and looked at each other. Mo Yang, you were no match for me 3 years ago. This time, you are no match for me either. Wang Jian said. Sword chi surged from his body. Wang Jian was a peerless monster from the 9 Heaven Sword sect. He had strong combat strength and unparalleled swordsmanship. 3 years ago, before Luo Shuahan's rise, Wang Jian was ranked second among the top 10 evildoers. He was competing with the Divine Sun. Unfortunately, he was not only defeated by the Divine Sun, but also by Luo Shuahan, dropping to third place. How will we know if we don't fight? I must defeat you in this battle. Mo Yang said. Demonic chi surged from his body, making him look like a demon god. When the referee announced the start of the battle, the 2 men moved at the same time. Sword shakes the 9 heavens. Demonic roars to the world. The 2 men were old rivals. As soon as they attacked, they burst out with all their strength. There was no need to test each other. In the fierce confrontation, the Dharma permeated the battle arena. Roars continued to sound as terrifying collisions occurred. In the surroundings, everyone was watching without blinking. Many people were shocked and exclaimed repeatedly, marveling at the battle prowess of the 2. However, after watching for a while, Lu Ming lost interest. He had seen this kind of combat strength many times in the 100-clan battlefield, so he was not interested. Mo Yang and Wang Jian exchanged hundreds of blows. In the end, Wang Jian gained the upper hand and defeated Mo Yang, continuing to win. Of course, Mo Yang was defeated, so he could continue to fight. Mo Yang's face was cold as he returned to the spectator stand. The battle continued. Next, after 2 more battles, another heavyweight battle was ushered in. It was another battle between the top 10 monsters. Zifeng was fighting against the Heavenly King Hall's monster, Wang Kong. This battle could be said to be evenly matched. The 2 men exchanged hundreds of blows, and in the end, Zifeng won by a slight margin and won. Lu Ming, Lu Yuan. The voice of breaking Yuan returns rang out. Lu Yuan, from the Celestial Gods sect. Lu Ming finally came to his senses. He took a step forward and appeared on the battle arena. Finally, he met another genius from the Celestial Gods sect. Lu Yuan stepped onto the battle arena and stood opposite Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it seems that there is no need for senior brother Luo Shuehan to make a move. You will die at my hands. Lu Yuan's eyes were cold, and his whole body emitted a cold metallic luster. His aura was extremely powerful. Lu Yuan's combat strength was very strong. He also had a superior earth spiritual body, and his cultivation had reached the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm. In the Zhongzhou, he was second only to the top 10 monsters. In fact, of the remaining 18 people, 9 were monsters, while the other 9 were second only to the top 10 monsters. Each of them was a top genius, and they were all eyeing the top 10 monsters. You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said faintly. Kill. After the referee announced the start of the battle, Lu Yuan roared and rushed toward Lu Ming. The metallic luster on his body became even more intense, and his whole person seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. What he cultivated was not the core cultivation method of the Celestial God sect, the Sacred Light technique. It was only because his spiritual body did not match, but it was still very terrifying. Boom! Lu Ming threw out a punch and collided with Lu Yuan's. Clang! Chapter 1693. Not bad. You can take one of my punches. Come again. Lu Yuan roared and took a step forward. His body was like a metal mountain as he charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming poured his true essence into the flowing essence gloves as he exchanged blows with Lu Yuan. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Lu Ming is so strong. He can actually fight Lu Yuan. It's indeed amazing. Could it be that Lu Ming has been holding back? Look, Lu Ming's aura is completely exposed. He's in the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's really the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's amazing that a 2nd stage half-step saint has such strong combat strength. Many people exclaimed in surprise. Previously, Lu Ming was able to defeat a 2nd stage half-step saint genius. That was because Lu Ming had used dozens of blows to defeat his opponent. But now, Lu Ming could actually fight Lu Yuan. Everyone was shocked. Boom! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged dozens of blows. Damn it! Lu Yuan roared in his heart. He couldn't take down Lu Ming and began to feel anxious. It's about time. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. 6 doors of sealing appeared and sealed Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's movements suddenly stiffened. Not good. Lu Yuan turned pale with fright. Kill. Lu Ming took out the black dragon spear and stabbed at Lu Yuan's dantian. Puchi! The black dragon spear pierced Lu Yuan's dantian. Lu Yuan let out an unwilling roar and died. Lu Yuan is dead. Many people were shocked. What a powerful sealing technique. It turns out that Lu Ming is good at sealing techniques. I know now. He has been hiding it and deliberately fought Lu Yuan. Then, he suddenly used the Book of Seals to freeze Lu Yuan, who was caught off guard. Then, he killed Lu Yuan in one fell swoop. Indeed, this is Lu Ming's tactic. Lu Yuan was too careless. Many people were discussing, thinking that Lu Ming died because of his own carelessness. In the stands, Luo Shuahan's gaze was as cold as a knife. Lu Ming had actually killed Lu Yuan. This way, the Heavenly Divinity sect would be at a disadvantage. Once Lu Yuan died, his points would return to 0. That would be extremely disadvantageous to the Heavenly Divinity sect's total points. Originally, the Heavenly God sect had a great advantage among the remaining 18 people. Because of the remaining 18 people, 3 of them were from the Heavenly God sect. In addition to Luo Shuehan, there was another genius who was similar to Lu Yuan. Moreover, A genius like Lu Yuan would not be killed even when facing the top 10 monstrous geniuses. If he wanted to rush down the battle platform, the top 10 monstrous geniuses would not be able to kill him. If this continued, the celestial god sex points would soon surpass the dragon god valleys. At that time, as long as he killed Lu Ming, even if he didn't kill Lu Ming, as long as he obtained first place, the celestial god sect would be able to secure first place. But who would have thought that Lu Yuan would be killed by Lu Ming due to his carelessness? Now the heavenly divinity sect was a little mysterious. Lu Ming must die. Luo Xuehan thought to himself. Luo Xuehan, it's your turn next. I will send you to accompany Lu Yuan. Lu Ming pulled out his bloodied spear and pointed it at Luo Xuehan, then returned to the spectator stand. Then, the battle continued. The next battle piqued the crowd's interest again. Luo Xiang against a monstrous genius. Luo Xiang had previously displayed terrifying combat strength. Once he used the life and death sword art, no one could defeat him. It was amazing that he had reached this stage as a stage 2 half-saint. Now, how would he perform when facing one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses? But when the battle began, everyone's jaws dropped. The sword radiance swept across, completely suppressing the monstrous genius. In just a dozen moves, the monstrous genius was in danger and almost had his throat slit. In the end, he used all his strength to rush down the battle platform in an injured state. This made everyone dumbfounded. They could not believe it. A stage 2 half-saint had defeated one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses. This kind of combat strength was really shocking. He's so powerful. I'm no match for him. Zifeng said with a bitter expression. The other monstrous geniuses looked solemn as they watched Luo Xiang's proud figure in the battle platform. How could the life and death sword faction have such a person? Luo Xuehan's expression was the worst among the crowd. If Luo Xiang was so powerful now, he would be no match for him after he broke through the bottleneck of the law. Wouldn't the top monstrous genius in the Tsang prefecture change in the future? No, I have to find a chance to get rid of Luo Xiang in the future. Luo Xuehan's eyes flashed with coldness. He could not let others take away his throne as the top monstrous genius in the Tsang prefecture. Luo Xiang's sword art is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It's unpredictable. Could it be the legendary law of speed? Lu Ming's eyes showed that he was pondering. Lu Ming had obtained part of the 9 dragons' memory fragments, so his knowledge was naturally far above the others. He could tell that the law Luo Xiang comprehended was most likely the law of speed. In the world, the top 10 supreme laws were undoubtedly the strongest. However, below the 10 supreme laws, there were still some laws that were extremely terrifying, far surpassing ordinary laws. The law of speed was at this level, second only to the 10 supreme laws. After Luo Xiang, it was Luo Xuehan's turn to fight with another genius. That genius was second only to the top 10 monstrous geniuses, but he was completely powerless against Luo Xuehan. He was suppressed by Luo Xuehan, and in the end, he was killed by Luo Xuehan before he could even escape from the battle platform. After killing his opponent, Luo Xuehan looked coldly at Lu Ming, full of provocation. Lu Ming had merely killed Lu Yuan due to Lu Yuan's carelessness. However, Lu Ming had completely suppressed and killed his opponent with his terrifying abilities. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not bother with Luo Xuehan. Junior Lu Ming, Luo Xuehan's combat strength is even more terrifying than it was 3 years ago. If you are not confident in winning against him, just admit defeat. Zifeng sighed. Luo Xuehan's combat strength was too terrifying. Even he could only survive against Luo Xuehan. There was no chance of winning at all. My master won't lose. If that Luo Xuehan meets my master, he'll definitely be beaten until he pisses his pants. Xiang Xiang was unhappy and pouted at Lu Ming. In Xiang Xiang's eyes, Lu Ming was the strongest. How could he lose to others? Okay, your master is the strongest. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Humph, of course. Only then did the little girl smile. This little girl. Lu Ming patted Xiang Xiang's little head dotingly. The following battles were extremely intense. The remaining geniuses of the Tsang state naturally did not admit defeat. The battles were extremely intense. After the end of this round, there were 16 people left. The Divine Dragon Valley was still in the lead. A new round had begun. The first battle was between Zifeng and Wang Jian. In fact, at this stage, the method of drawing lots was no longer used, because some people had already fought. If they drew lots and drew the same two people again, wouldn't they have to fight again? There was no need for that. Next, it was completely up to Pe Yuan to rank himself. Zi Feng tried his best, but unfortunately, he was defeated by Wang Jian. Lu Ming Luo Shui Han. Chapter 1694. Lu Ming, Luo Shui Han. Many people's eyes lit up when they heard these two names. Lu Ming had finally met Luo Shui Han. Many people were guessing whether Lu Ming would admit defeat. After all, if he didn't, Luo Shui Han would not let Lu Ming go. Is it finally time? It's earlier than I expected. Well, I don't have to hide my strength anymore after I've dealt with Luo Shui Han. Lu Ming smiled. He had been hiding his strength because he was waiting for Luo Shui Han. Otherwise, Lu Ming could kill these so-called geniuses with one punch. It wouldn't take much effort for him to do so. However, Luo Shui Han wouldn't dare to fight with him and would admit defeat immediately. Ha ha ha, I finally met Lu Ming. Luo Shui Han was overjoyed. Senior brother Luo, you must kill Lu Ming and avenge senior brother Lu Yuan. In my opinion, there's no hope. Lu Ming must be scared shitless when he meets senior brother Luo. He won't have the courage to fight and will admit defeat immediately. You're right. After all, it's better to be a coward than to be killed. The disciples of the celestial sect spoke one after another. Their voices were loud and could be heard everywhere. Junior brother, don't fall for their provocation. Zi Feng's expression changed. The people of the celestial sect were obviously saying this for Lu Ming to hear. They were afraid that Lu Ming would admit defeat immediately. Don't worry, senior brother. Lu Ming smiled and stepped out onto the fighting ring. At the same time, Luo Shui Han also landed on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, you'd better admit defeat. If you don't, you'll die, Luo Shui Han said coldly. His eyes were full of disdain. Luo Shui Han, you don't have to use such a despicable method to provoke me. However, as you wish, I won't surrender, Lu Ming said indifferently. Is that so? Luo Shui Han's eyes flashed with joy. The others were also shocked. Lu Ming didn't surrender. Was he going to fight with Luo Shui Han? Would he be able to survive Luo Shui Han's attack? Some of the people from Dragon God Valley looked worried. Lu Ming, I believe that this is not all you have. Within the territory of the Life and Death Sword faction, Luo Xiang carried a long sword on his back. His entire being was like an incomparably sharp sword as he stood there, muttering under his breath. Begin. At this moment, Origin Restoration's voice rang out. Kill. As soon as Pe Yuan Gue finished speaking, Luo Shui Han shouted loudly. Holy light burst forth, and a holy spear appeared in his hand. He leaped high into the air and stabbed down at Lu Ming. The spear pierced through the air at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it arrived in front of Lu Ming and stabbed towards Lu Ming's heart. Luo Shui Han wouldn't stab Lu Ming's dantian right from the start. Once the dantian was stabbed, the soul deity would collapse, and Lu Ming would die. Luo Shui Han wouldn't kill Lu Ming so easily. He wanted Lu Ming to suffer and let Lu Ming die in despair. Only then could he vent his hatred. Seeing that the spear was about to pierce Lu Ming's heart, many people's hearts were in their mouths. Why wasn't Lu Ming dodging? Could it be that Luo Shui Han was too fast and powerful, and had locked onto Lu Ming, making it difficult for Lu Ming to dodge? Such a thought appeared in many people's minds. At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. He stretched out a hand and grabbed the tip of the spear. Many people didn't even see how Lu Ming did it. Then, Luo Shui Han's spear stopped in the air, only a millimeter away from Lu Ming's chest. However, this millimeter couldn't pierce through. Kill! Luo Shui Han shouted. Holy light erupted, and the precepts flowed. He gathered all the strength in his body and poured it into the spear. The spear glowed and stabbed towards Lu Ming. However, it didn't move. The spear didn't move. Lu Ming's hand was like the hand of a god. It was as immovable as a mountain. How is this possible? How is this possible? Luo Shui Han's eyes almost popped out. He roared in his heart. It was simply unbelievable. He thought he was dreaming. He attacked with all the strength in his body, but it was caught by Lu Ming with one hand. He couldn't move at all. At this time, the others present were also dumbfounded. What was Luo Shui Han doing? Why was he frozen there? Is this all you've got? How disappointing. Lu Ming stared into Luo Shuihan's eyes and said indifferently. Looking into Lu Ming's eyes, Luo Shuihan's heart trembled. A chill spread throughout his body. At this moment, he knew that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength. Lu Ming's true strength was simply abnormal. He was no match for him. Retreat, retreat, retreat. At this time, there was only one word in Luo Shuihan's heart. However, it was too late. Buzz! The spear in his hand let out a buzzing sound. A terrifying force flowed from Lu Ming's hand through the spear and into his body. His body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Lu Ming held Luo Shuihan's spear and turned it around. He took a step forward and caught up with Luo Shuihan. The spear pierced through Luo Shuihan's heart and nailed him to the fighting ring. Ah! Luo Shuihan screamed. His body twisted violently and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Although the heart was a vital point, with Luo Shuihan's spiritual body, he wouldn't die in a short time. As long as he was treated properly, he would recover quickly. At this moment, the whole place was silent. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the scene in disbelief. Luo Shuihan was nailed to the fighting ring by his own spear. How could this be? Luo Shuihan was powerless in Lu Ming's hands. He was as weak as a baby. Luo Shuihan was the #1 demon in Cangzhou. Although it referred to the #1 demon below the Saint Realm, it was still shocking enough. However, he was nothing in the hands of Lu Ming. At this moment, they all knew that Lu Ming must have been hiding his strength. He was waiting for Luo Shuihan. He deliberately hid his strength to wait for Luo Shuihan. This thought appeared in many people's minds. It was ridiculous that the people of the Celestial Sect and Luo Shuihan had tried to provoke Lu Ming into not admitting defeat. It was too ridiculous. It was probably what Lu Ming wanted. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, figures in the Celestial Sect stands suddenly stood up. Their bodies emitted a shocking aura. They were all Saint Realm experts. They were shocked and couldn't calm down. Luo Shuihan was defeated? At that moment, the divine child's expression finally changed. His eyes were filled with holy light, revealing his sharpness. Lu Ming, let go of me. Luo Shuihan roared. Let go of you? Ridiculous. Lu Ming's true ether condensed into a blade. With a slash, one of Luo Shuihan's arms flew out. Luo Shuihan let out a shrill cry. You treated the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley like this before. Now, I'll return it to you. Lu Ming spoke coldly. His primordial energy was like a saber, slashing down again. Blood splattered everywhere. Luo Shuihan's other arm flew out. No, Lu Ming, don't kill me. Spare me. Chapter 1695. Luo Shuihan screamed and begged for mercy. Before this, not even in his wildest dreams would he have thought that this would be the outcome. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was only a 4th-level martial royal realm cultivator. How could he be so powerful now? Even he, the top genius of Cangzhou, could not fight back. Luo Shuihan could not figure it out, but he just wanted to live. In the past, when he killed others, he looked down on them like ants. Now that it was his turn, Luo Shuihan realized how terrifying he was. Spare you? Is that possible? Don't you think it's funny? Lu Ming spoke nonchalantly, his tone full of disdain. Elder, save me, save me. Luo Shuihan screamed and begged the elders of the Celestial God sect for help. Lu Ming, you'd better let him go. An old man from the Heavenly God sect spoke. The aura that this old man exuded was extremely shocking. A vast saint aura spread out continuously, filling the area with an oppressive pressure. He was definitely a terrifying expert. He was far more powerful than an ordinary bright saint. He was a supreme saint. Haha, what a joke. You've lost the treasure sorting meeting and now you're threatening me. How shameless of a supreme saint. Purple Dragon Valley's Valley Master stood up and exuded a terrifying aura. He faced the supreme saint of the Celestial God sect and the atmosphere became even more oppressive. The supreme saint of the Celestial God sect looked gloomy. He knew that he had gone overboard by interfering as a supreme saint. However, Luo Shuihan was very talented. He was second only to the Divine Sun. If he didn't die, he would definitely become a saint in the future. It was even possible for him to become a supreme saint. He might even be able to become an absolute saint. How many supreme saints did the celestial god sect have in all these years? There were not many supreme saints in Cangzhou. They had accumulated over the years. It would be a great loss for them to be killed by Lu Ming. Bas! The black dragon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The spear light was shocking. Luo Xuehan, I'll send you to hell, Lu Ming said coldly. Luo Xuehan was scared out of his wits. He struggled and screamed. Lu Ming, you better think twice, the great saint of the heavenly god sect said coldly. Reconsider? I only need to think once before I kill someone. Why would I need to think thrice? Lu Ming responded. The black dragon spear pierced through Luo Xuehan's dantian and destroyed his spiritual deity. Luo Xuehan let out a roar of unwillingness. His eyes were as wide as a dead fish's. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that his life would end like this. That he would be killed by Lu Ming in this place. Senior brother deity, avenge me. With a final roar, Luo Xuehan's life was extinguished. Luo Xuehan was dead. The great sages of the celestial divinity sect, as well as the other sage realm experts, burst forth with shocking auras. They looked coldly at Lu Ming, but in the end, they retracted their auras and sat down. This was the treasure ranking convention, and all the sects were present. If they broke the rules, they would be suppressed by the other sections. Luo Xuehan is dead. Many people murmured, still finding it hard to believe. Even the other geniuses felt the same way. They were somewhat stunned. The number one genius of the Cangzhou state, the mountain that suppressed all the geniuses of the Cangzhou state, was an insurmountable mountain. Yet, he was killed by Lu Ming so easily, which made them feel unreal. How could this be? How could this be? Mo Yang muttered to himself, as if he had been struck dumb. If Luo Xuehan was killed just like that, then what about him? How would he fare against Lu Ming? Thinking of this, he shuddered. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? I knew it. You were hiding your strength, but it was still beyond my expectations. Luo Xiang whispered, his eyes bursting with astonishing fighting spirit. However, in the next moment, his fighting spirit was completely retracted. Master is the most powerful. I knew Master was the most powerful. In the Dragon God Valley area, Lu Xiang exclaimed. She didn't seem to be surprised at all. In her heart, all of this was a matter of course. Well, my eyesight is not as good as a little girl's. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Ha ha ha, senior brother Zifeng, that's because you don't know Lu Ming. When you get to know him for a long time, you won't be surprised at what he does. Tian Chui laughed loudly. Tian Chui, Xuening Xin, Long Yuanshan, and the others all knew what was going on. Previously, Lu Ming had said that he had a 50% chance of killing the divine child. Hence, it was natural that he would be able to kill Luo Xuehan easily. In the fighting ring, Lu Ming put away Luo Xuehan's storage ring and sacred weapon spear. These were his spoils of war, so he naturally wouldn't be polite. Then with a shake of his spear, Luo Xuehan's body flew out of the fighting ring. Whoosh! Everyone was shocked when the black dragon spear pointed at the divine child. This was because the direction Lu Ming was pointing at was the divine child. Divine child, just you wait. You're next. Lu Ming pointed his spear at the divine child, his killing intent cold. I will send you down to accompany Luo Xuehan, the divine child said. As his eyes opened and closed, a terrifying sacred light flashed. All around, everyone was suddenly filled with anticipation. They were looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the divine child. Previously, most people thought that Lu Ming wasn't qualified to fight with the divine child at all. Perhaps he would be killed by the celestial god sect at the treasure sorting convention. Even if he was lucky enough to pass the treasure sorting convention, he wouldn't stand a chance against the divine child. But now, they were suddenly filled with strong anticipation. Lu Ming had killed Luo Xuehan with a flip of his hand. He was simply unfathomable. Who knew if Lu Ming was hiding his strength? Perhaps he could really fight with the divine child? Bas! In Lu Ming's hand, the black dragon spear shook, and the blood on it was shaken off. Then, he put away the black dragon spear and returned to the spectator stand. Now, let the battle continue, Pa Yuangui announced. The competition continued, but the rest of the competition was already dull and boring. Those who were watching didn't have the mood. They were all looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the Divine Child. Those who were fighting also didn't have the mood. With Lu Ming around, did they still have any hope of fighting for first place? With Lu Ming's combat strength, he could easily defeat them. Moreover, there was also Zifeng from the Dragon God Valley. Due to the fact that they had more people, they had been leading in points. So, how could the other sects compete? There was no longer any hope, so their battle was just a formality. Soon, the round ended, and the next round began. Lu Ming and Mo Yang. Pa Yuangui's voice rang out, and Mo Yang's face suddenly turned pale. Lu Ming and Mo Yang stepped onto the fighting ring and stood opposite each other. Mo Yang, you said that you would kill me. Wait a minute, you won't just admit defeat, right? I don't think you're that cowardly, right? Lu Ming said. You, Mo Yang gritted his teeth, and his face turned pale. Initially, he had intended to admit defeat. However, after hearing Lu Ming's words, if he admitted defeat, he would be admitting that he was a coward. Lu Ming was deliberately putting him on the spot. Begin. At this moment, Pa Yuangui announced. Bang! Lu Ming stepped out, and the fighting ring roared. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Chapter 1696. As soon as the unification of shattered energy was announced, Mo Yang immediately admitted defeat. He didn't dare to delay at all, as he was afraid that he would be instantly killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming stopped in his tracks and said disdainfully, You really have no guts. You were all high and mighty before, saying that you were going to kill me. Where did that go? Mo Yang's face was red, and he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. He lowered his head and returned to the spectator's stand without replying. Now, the more he spoke, the more he would humiliate himself. He hated Lu Ming, but he didn't have the courage to fight Lu Ming to the death. Ninth junior brother. This result is within my expectations. He's just a coward who bullies the weak and fears the strong. Tian Chui said. That's right. The words of this kind of person are like farts to him. Xuening Xin added. Burp. Mo Yang clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Lu Ming, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. You'll still die at the hands of the Divine Child later. I'll tolerate you for now, but in the future, I'll kill all of these people from Dragon God Valley. Mo Yang roared in his heart. The competition continued. There was no suspense in the following competition. Anyone who met Lu Ming directly admitted defeat, including the top 10 geniuses. Haha, junior brother Lu Ming, I admit defeat. I'm no match for you. Later, Zifeng also met Lu Ming and admitted defeat. Later, Lu Ming met Luo Xiang. Lu Ming thought that Luo Xiang would fight him, but he didn't expect Luo Xiang to shake his head and say, Lu Ming, we'll have another chance to spar in the future. I'm no match for you now. After saying that, he directly left the fighting ring. Just like that, Lu Ming defeated all of his opponents in a sweeping manner. All competitions in this year's treasure sorting convention are over. When the unification of shattered energy was announced, Dragon God Valley cheered enthusiastically. Dragon God Valley had won, and there was no need to calculate the points. They all knew that Dragon God Valley had won. Lu Ming had swept through everyone by himself. Adding on the 10 points awarded to him, there was no longer any suspense. The Divine Dragon Valley has won first place in this treasure sorting meeting. The 2 primordial treasures belong to the Divine Dragon Valley for safekeeping. We will compete again in 3 years. Pa Yuangui announced. Ha ha ha, now, give me the 2 treasures. The Purple Dragon Valley Master stood up and looked at the great sage of the Heavenly Gods sect. The great saints of the Heavenly Divinity sect were extremely indignant. He had brought the 2 treasures with him, but he had never thought of handing them over. With the Heavenly Divinity sect's lineup, it was certain that they would take first place this time. They did not expect the 4th layer Martial Dominator Realm Kid who claimed to challenge the God's Son 3 years ago would possess such outstanding strength, killing Luo Shuihan and defeating the others, helping the Dragon God Valley to come first in the trial. Now, he had no choice but to hand it over. Damned little bastard, you can't even rest when you're about to die. The great sage of the Heavenly Gods sect roared in his heart. In his opinion, Lu Ming would definitely be killed by the Divine Son. There was no doubt about it. There could not be another possibility. However, even if Lu Ming was dead, the Dragon God Valley would still come first in the trial and have the 2 treasures for 3 years. What is it? Why are you so hesitant? Are you not going to hand it over? The Purple Dragon Valley Master said with a hollow laugh. Fine, you won't be able to discover anything in 3 years. The great sage of the Heavenly Divinity sect said coldly. It had been so many years, and one of the 2 treasures was said to contain the secret to achieving the martial monarch realm. However, no one had managed to discover anything after so many years. He did not believe that the Dragon God Valley would be able to discover anything in 3 years. He took out a storage ring and threw it to the Purple Dragon Valley Master. The Purple Dragon Valley Master received it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. Lu Ming's eyes flickered too. He was not too interested in the other treasure. He was hoping to obtain the fragment of the prison-suppressing boulder. Bang! The sky buzzed as a powerful pressure descended. The god sun stood in the air, his body glowing with sacred light. He stood above the fighting ring and looked down at Lu Ming coldly. Many people were shocked. Were the god sun and Lu Ming going to fight? Lu Ming, I'll give you time to recover. The god sun said coldly. Why do I need to recover? We can fight now. Lu Ming swept his gaze toward the divine sun. He rose into the air and stood opposite him. There was no doubt that Lu Ming and the god sun had become the focus of attention. Are they finally going to fight? Someone murmured. In fact, many people had come to the treasure convention to watch the battle between Lu Ming and the god sun. Do you think Lu Ming can fight the god sun? It'll be difficult. The god sun entered the saint realm a year and a half ago, but Lu Ming is only a half saint. Moreover, he's only in the 2nd stage. The gap is too big. It's almost impossible for a non-saint level battle saint to fight. Moreover, the god sun is stronger than the average saint realm. Lu Ming has no hope. Many people discussed, and some sighed. They thought that Lu Ming was no match for the god sun. Go master. Beat him. Xiang Xiang waved her little fist. Long Yuanshan, Yang Tianzong, Tian Chue, Xuening Xin, and the others watched quietly. They could not help but worry. Sacred light danced on the god sun. Even his eyes turned into milky white sacred light. He said coldly, Lu Ming, although your combat strength is not bad, I'll let you know the difference between a non-saint level battle saint and a saint realm. Bam! The god sun stepped out like the son of God. Sacred light burst forth, and a powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Then he slapped out, and a huge palm print of sacred light pressed down on Lu Ming. Sacred power surged and the precepts flowed. It was extremely terrifying. You're only using the power of a luminous saint realm? You're really looking down on me. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He did not dodge and threw a punch. Lu Ming's fist shone, and the shadow of a tablet could be vaguely seen. Boom! An earth-shattering roar sounded. The huge palm print of sacred light was shattered by Lu Ming's punch. Lu Ming rushed through the sacred light and attacked the god sun. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. He directly broke the god sun's attack and took the initiative to attack the god sun. Could Lu Ming really have the combat strength of a saint realm? At the thought of this, many people widened their eyes and held their breaths. They stared at the scene without blinking, afraid that they would miss the key scene. The god sun's eyes turned cold. His palms emitted a bright sacred light, as if they were 2 pieces of milky white sacred stone. They were crystal clear and holy. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. His palms continued to attack Lu Ming. They were extremely terrifying, as if they could destroy everything. Lu Ming's palms flowed with the law of primal chaos as he used the suppressing hell skill. He was not afraid at all, and continued to attack. Dong, dong, dong. Dense collisions sounded. Lu Ming and the god sun had collided hundreds of times in an instant. Every time they collided, there was a dull roar in the sky. The 2 of them crossed each other like 2 streams of light. Some of the weaker cultivators could not see them clearly. Dong. After the last attack, the 2 of them kept retreating. However, Lu Ming only retreated 3 steps, while the god sun retreated 9 steps. The god sun was at a disadvantage. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.